This
depends what the
conference will now be recorded.
I sleep by then.
Wait, is that supposed to be FY
So,
'26?
Can we just call it order?
Yeah, never mind.
Well, no,
I'll wait.
We'll let you start.
We
when-
wanted you on the
we'll start,
record. You don't wanna be on the record, huh?
No,
We're
Not
running a
necessarily.
couple minutes late, but my computer says 5:04 PM on February 25th. And we have all three members of the board present here in town hall. Did you have something, Nikki,
No,
that's gonna
no,
come up?
I'll wait till later.
Cause frankly, we have an hour until finance committee comes in.
And it's downhill after that.
So I don't wanna,
I shouldn't have said that.
I don't wanna to wait until finance committee.
This was just a question I had, thought I had. I understand that the healthcare insurance has gone up. Sort of like,
12+%.
12.1%.
Was it 200?
so how does this play into the salaries, the wages of the people that are working? So if you're giving them 2.5% or 3% or something like that, is it totally offset by, does it totally offset the healthcare? Because that's not the only increase in,
It's a ratio that we pay 75%.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
25%.
but it's still 25%,
Of what that costs.
12% of their 25%.
They're, whatever they work.
Whatever they
goes up
pay.
by 12%.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so I just, to niggle your head, that's all.
Okay.
I think it depends on the employee, because I think if you're a part-time benefit eligible employee,
You're gonna be.
you might have a more significant effect on someone like that, because your increase on the salary is starting at a smaller rate, but you're still paying, especially if you're a family, you're still paying the same
Still paying
rate
the same thing.
as someone
But
like that.
yeah, I don't know if it's something you wanna look at when you look at the numbers. Say-
We can run some numbers. I think we've never factored it in before. I don't know that it's ever been 12%.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I don't think it's, because I didn't know it was
It
12%.
has. She
But it
said
has
that.
been historically.
But it can vary, it could vary so much if you are,
Right, if you're
a family plan, single plan. Are you a department head with a single plan, or are you,
Yeah, but it's still gonna be a 12% increase.
yeah,
But how much it impacts you is gonna.
What is the impact on that? And is it totally at least offset? I had to run into Barrington this morning, 333 and 335 for gas,
Yeah, so
way up.
gas is up, stock market's down.
I can't imagine.
And eggs are hard to come by.
Well, you could always
No,
try.
no, there's no avian flu, don't be ridiculous. We
I
did
got
away with the
plenty of eggs
CDC,
at
so
my
we don't
house.
have to
Those
worry
chickens
about
are
it.
really producing them.
You could always,
There's no flu if you don't tell anybody.
you could always drive over to Dover Plains, it's only $2.99 over there.
Well, I
Go
actually,
Plains, oh my God.
I went up to,
I wonder what it is at Stewart's.
there's a clock with my daughter last week. And I noticed it was 302 someplace. Yeah, that's, we've been paying 299 and, up by them. And,
I think it was about 309.
and yeah, so we came back a different way, so I couldn't get it at the 302, but I got it for 309. I got, it wasn't much of the gas I wasn't really empty, but I'm going like, I can't pay something.
I hear you.
Saving
But
a
it's
couple of dollars.
a good question. I mean, I remember there was a point, it was maybe 10 or 12 years ago, where there were like 4 years in a row where health insurance went up double digits every year. And then it was a big deal when it dropped below, like it was like double digits. One year, I think it was close to 18% or something. And then it finally dropped down to like 8, and we thought that was good. There's
It's like, oh, this is fantastic, yeah.
Well,
it's-
But can you imagine those increases like year on year? That was brutal. It was brutal.
so first
Anyway,
off,
that's just something to put in the back of your.
thank you, Mickey. It's good to think about. First up is the Mahaiwe Tent contract.
Yep.
I think given that it's month to month, we should just delegate the responsibility to sign it to the director of the community center or the program manager of the community center, as long as it's within the budget.
I agree. I don't think we have to sign it.
There's no opposition.
No, no opposition.
And they're actually, I looked at the numbers, they're actually giving us a price break. If you look at what because that's slightly over a month that that first month is, and it's less than their monthly charge, so they're giving us a break on it. Which is,
They seem to be getting on all of them there.
So you can just tell Chris that.
Yep.
It's his
So
responsibility.
From now on, we'll just say it's their
Yeah.
responsibility to sign it.
they just
Yeah,
have to
'cause-
stay within the budget.
Yeah, because everyone was a little confused as like to who even signed it.
Yeah.
So I think if we. at least made a
Technically,
decision-
the board is the authorized signatory, but I think in this case, we're delegating that responsibility, which we're also able to do.
I'll let them know.
Warrant articles for town meeting, so after our discussion about the timeline of town meeting last week, it just got me thinking what else we might have on the warrant other than,
The cruiser,
the budget
budgety thing.
and budget type things, which we're
Yeah.
kind of dealing with separately. David and I spoke, David Myers, bylaw review committee. Given everything else going on at annual town meeting, it seems like, and look, we wanna get it done.
Right.
And be ready for November, but we also don't want such a long warrant, with a lot on it that we can't address everything, so we're thinking that bylaws will be in November, which is also kind of why we set up November meetings,
Yep.
is for non-money items.
Maybe
So-
we can also lean on the planning board that if they're thinking of any substantive zoning changes, they should be planning on getting them on that warrant.
Are they thinking about that solar one? Or
So
some- they had
they
some out
might-
at the planning meeting.
I think they've already posted for public notice.
The ADU one we have to do soon,
Yeah.
but I meant there's also ongoing discussion about other changes that might
Yeah,
be made to rules to try to make it possible to do some, I'll call it smart development.
Yeah.
There's discussion, that doesn't mean they have a particular plan, but if there is something they wanna do, having a date to shoot for might get them on track to do it.
Yeah.
As opposed to like just being in limbo. And there may not be anything, but
well, I think also if they're thinking up ideas in February with all the posting requirements for a zoning
Yep.
change, it wouldn't make sense to do it this May.
No. And I'm just
So-
saying, I'm encouraging them to do it for November instead of to do it for ATM 2026.
I had hoped to kind of have a list, but I will just run my ongoing list of
Possibility.
possibilities. Fiber Connect's easement for their equipment on Sylvan Road, they're supposed to get to us. Last thing I heard, they were having some trouble with getting someone to do a survey. And
And what would the article be on that? That would be just.
that Fiber Connect's
Granting
supposed to
them.
get that to us.
They're supposed to give us the paperwork, but we would be approving this.
We already told them it was approved by their council and our council that we could give them a temporary permission. But it really, to have that, equipment there, but technically it's supposed to be a town meeting. I'm noticing also that we might transfer pavilion funding, we'll have to see where we are. Unfortunately, the timeline on that project isn't ideal as it relates to town meeting, because we're supposed to find out in May or June. I asked Dennis if we can find out on the earlier side.
Right.
And I don't have a lot else, I see some other things, but.
That's not making me cry.
We're gonna have to do the 2.5%.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
for everyone.
Although that's actually an election.
That's
It's
right.
both, I think.
You have to do, yeah, I think you do it here,
Yeah,
You
you
do
do.
both?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it might be 2/3 of that. I have to double check. on
Yeah,
that.
you have to do, the town meeting has to be 2/3.
Yeah, I think so. And then there's a vote.
and is the
a ballot
vote
question.
straight straight majority or also
I
two
think
thirds?
it's straight majority.
I don't know about the vote here, but I know town meeting is 2/3.
I think the ballot vote is majority.
Okay, we'll keep on thinking about that as we move forward, but if there are any other, sometimes there's housekeeping things that we.
It's usually budgetary.
Probably going to be a long day.
The one thing, yeah, someone else's, the other one thing is that GZA issue, I did talk to,
It's
uh,
probably
Eric
going.
and
to
the,
Bob, I think your mic is on,
Oh, sorry.
no worries.
yeah, and the money that was set aside to pay that invoice, there was no invoice, so there was no money to cover it. And so that money got put into, free cash.
Which.
The 13th, that last invoice, there was a 13,000 for, studies.
Okay, yeah,
So we transferred, we moved around a bunch of money to cover that cost in the dam inspection. And there was no invoice, so there was nothing to encumber it against. So, because it came well after the August 31st, it didn't come until January.
So the GZA invoice will have to be,
Yeah, so the money's kind of there, it's in free cash, it's,
but that's what we do.
Yeah,
If
you
the
just
free cash
explain it.
money,
Yeah.
sign it where
Yeah.
it needs to go, so.
so that's the only,
so that was the one that Mike had sent, now the only thing I wonder is, we have a line in the highway budget for dam inspection,
yes.
and depending on what I haven't looked at the highway, reporting recently, but if there's, maybe because Jim is out, they've been purchasing fewer shovels, I don't know. And
They still do a lot of invoices.
maybe there's money in the highway budget to pay it this year.
I'll check, because I believe the invoice is this, it came in January, so it's this fiscal year.
Yeah.
So, but we can't.
Because the
I'll
highway
check and see.
budget's so big,
So,
and I'm not saying that we should
Yeah.
sell them short on
But
their
if there's
budget,
money
but if
in
there's
there,
money
right.
there,
There may be some other funds, like, for example, you know how we transfer, we do some transfers from fund to fund, from
Yeah.
line item to line
in
item.
May and June.
May and June, there may be some funds like in the HR piece, there's usually, it's like $1,000 in there, we haven't
But,
been using it, so.
but
yeah,
here's
we'll
the
check
thing, is
highway
if
first.
it's in highway.
Yeah.
And it's in a line that's qualifying, like
Yep.
maintaining, one of the ones is like property maintenance or something, right?
Property services.
Then if there's money there, we wouldn't have to do any
Correct.
transfers and we could pay the invoice immediately.
And dam inspection, I think also would be,
But dam inspection, I think is a whole separate line, I think
It
it's
is.
5,000.
It's $5,000.
Okay, and
But,
it's
I mean, we
easy
could,
enough,
you
right.
could still zero it out, 5,000.
well, but we might have spent it on the dam inspection, I don't know.
But this was basically dam inspection that GZO was doing?
I'd have to go back and look at the invoice and what it was for again. It's been a couple of weeks or a week. or
Well,
so
it wasn't itemized, and that was one thing that I was gonna ask from Mike that I failed to, was, could we have that itemized? Because that would also inform how we pay it.
You might ask Dennis. Dennis said he was there.
Well, this one they sent, for whatever reason, to Mike. I mean,
Yeah, and the
But
other thing is,
Dennis
you
is
just
better
ask,
than-
GZA's been really good about,
Yeah.
when we ask them to clarify something.
yeah, I think we should clarify that, and maybe we have existing funding in the highway budget.
Yeah, it was basically, it was a one-page sheet that was professional services, Lake Garfield winter drawdown that had to do with that, so I can, I.
And how much was it?
$13,250. It was on the, it happened back, June 6th, is when, June 4th, or
Oh, but they
something
didn't
like
go
that.
until January.
Yeah.
Wait, did they start the drawdown in June?
No, but that was this summer, we had to go to the Concom,
Oh,
and
right,
it was
yeah,
very
yeah.
controversial, and that
Okay.
they were strategizing, and
Yeah.
it took me a while to remember what that was all about, because it was over half a year ago, but, yeah. Shall we get into the personnel policies?
Yeah, let's do it.
Really?
Tell me about it, mister.
You
Don't
you don't have a drinking problem.
The last few left, 2 of them are like over 13.
So we're doing the
That's
one
why I
through 6.
can't, what?
We're doing 1 through 6, right? The
Yeah, so
first email?
There were actually technically 9 in that first group, weren't there?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So we already did access and use of technology last week,
Right.
or a couple weeks ago, or however this has worked. I believe we're on to.
No.
Thing disappeared.
Actually,
just-
needs to do acknowledging committee, but there's, the next one,
Acknowledgement.
acknowledgements of receipt, which is pretty
I don't
straightforward.
need to back up a little bit, but that was originally a proposal for Lake Garfield winter drawdown flood control benefit stuff. That's what that 13,000 was for.
I think we have to maybe get more clarity from Michael, because I think part of it was possibly seeking a permanent permit for the drawdown, so that we don't need to go through the Concom every year. I still don't understand how Otis does the drawdown that they do, and the lake and the steep, and we're not allowed to do our drawdown.
I just wanted to let you know.
So acknowledgement of receipt, we have nothing about.
I mean, do we wanna go ahead and stay when we're approving them? Like, do we?
The way that I look at it, as we go through them, we're telling you whatever we have questions about,
Right, but you
and
see
then
what I'm
we
saying,
won't,
do we wanna like,
they won't become effective until.
Right. but we
Yeah.
need to make sure we know when we approve them.
Yeah,
I feel like if we put,
Put on the bottom of the page.
well, this is date adopted, so technically we could, date approved, you want me to change it to date approved and it's only adopted when we do it, the whole thing?
I think we should adopt it all at once. I think
Okay.
as we work through, I'm hoping that we can do them in parts, so that like today, if we could get through part 1.
I'm gonna put date approved on the one we already did, just so we have a record, so if you have to go back and look, we have it.
Yeah.
And that was last week, so that was what, 15?
It might have been.
Today's
2 weeks ago.
25, so it's 19. It wasn't last week?
Yeah, we did a couple
It
of
was
them.
last
yeah,
one?
So
yeah.
219.
25, okay, so, good, alright.
And then acknowledgement of receipt, no one
I
has
mean,
any
I don't think we have to
questions
do anything, it's like literally just it's not even a policy, it's just a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
So the next one
ADA.
would be ADA. And this
I
one
didn't
is-
have any changes. I saw what you did, Susan.
Yeah, I mean, and Justin pulled the phone number, which is fine. And I'm not sure, we don't actually need to, I could just accept these, it's nothing, right? I just pulled the highlight thing and you added that.
So we're not doing the phone number, which is it.
Yeah, it said in writing, and then it gave a phone number, and that kind of contradictory unless you're sending a fax. And you shouldn't fax confidential materials to a copier in the middle of the hallway.
Well, you definitely should do that, that's true.
So I think in this day and age, you can submit it in writing to you in person, or you can email it. There's multiple options. I think it's accommodating.
I just have to figure out how to get the highlighting off of this. I've never tried to do that. Font color strike, I don't know how to get the highlighting, alright, I don't have to figure it out right now, but I will figure it out. So are we good with the American with Disabilities Act?
Yeah.
And I can
I am good with it.
date approved.
What's next?
Anti-discrimination and harassment.
2525.
Oh, it said persons will remain available to discuss any concerns employees may have.
Where's that?
On page. Under part 4 procedures, number A.
Part 4 procedures, policy procedures. Okay, alright, part A, what's your comment?
Well, it says persons will remain available.
Discuss
And I'm just asking.
who the persons are.
So they're gonna submit it probably to the town administrator, maybe with the select board chair.
If if obviously you need
Maybe
some
we
backup,
just write-
the problem is that.
You need two people. You need like a chair and Roger. would be
Right,
like-
so one is the town administrator
So
and
maybe
the other
say-
is the alternate to the
Yeah.
chair.
The town administrator or select board chair,
Okay.
depending on,
Or you could say
Who-
whoever
who's
the
the
chair person designates. You could designate one of us to do it.
yeah, or a designee.
Employee may follow by county town administrator, whatever they may follow the select board. Okay, the town administrator, select board chair, or their designee will remain available to discuss it. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Next paragraph, yeah, I just deleted city, that's not very complicated.
I just added up to including termination, which isn't necessary, but
Where,
in B, sexual harassment investigation. The town will act promptly to eliminate the offending conduct and where appropriate impose disciplinary action up to and including termination.
Yeah. I
Well,
do
the last sentence.
that. Yeah.
retaliation, sanction,
It's in B of part
B.
4,
The last part imposes.
B.
That last little sentence,
letter B.
right,
the last sentence.
oh, well, is this what it's supposed to say? Cause this is the one that's, I don't know if this is you.
Yeah, I just added impose and disciplinary action,
Okay,
up to and including termination.
okay.
I mean, I think it's
I didn't.
the result of a sexual harassment
Yeah.
would often result in that, so I just want to make it clear.
Okay, yep, make it clear. Anything else?
Nope.
Just checking, alright. So what I'm actually doing is going through, so data, are we all in favor of this as it's amended?
Yes.
Yes.
25. Okay, I'm just going through and making sure that all the things are finalized as we go through it, so that there's accept. And we're back to the beginning. Okay, alright. Yay.
Attendance and breaks.
I have one change on, second paragraph, it said, employees absent for 3 consecutive workdays without notifying their supervisor will be removed from payroll and considered to resign voluntarily versus automatically removed.
Okay, I'm looking for it.
There, yeah,
Just delete automatically.
yeah, well, you could do that, I mean,
Did you?
I do, you can pass that through.
Yeah, here.
And then you
Third sentence.
Okay, yep, I like the way you put it. So just delete that whole sentence and replace it with.
At the end of that paragraph,
So, should it be additionally? So it's like, if an employee is absent for 3 consecutive workdays without notifying their supervisor, they will be removed from the payroll deemed to have voluntarily resigned without notice. Additionally, after you've been.
no, it should not be
After you've
additionally.
resigned without notice, a doctor's note is required for any absences due after 3 consecutive days. So, I don't know.
No, I think that.
It should just be a single sentence, right? A doctor's note is
Yes.
required for any absence.
Because you're in the hospital or something, you really,
Yeah, you could.
and you're getting oxygen or something,
they let you take your cell phone and,
and you're unconscious.
I'm pretty sure that if we find out someone's actually hospitalized and there was no one to call us or anything.
I didn't think he would know that. Yeah.
And sadly, Nikki, it's now a thing for people to just not come into work and not tell anybody.
yeah, we had a guy at the transfer station.
So just remove the word
3
additionally, right?
days.
Yeah, but I mean, he would show
Is
up
that
at
correct,
10 or
Roger?
11 in
I'm
the
sorry.
morning.
Just remove the word additionally?
Yeah, I think it's just a totally separate sentence.
Yep. Okay.
And then I
Double
just,
check that I didn't screw it up.
I don't know why I underlined maintain.
Does it look right?
Yeah, also the removed from payroll, I feel like we could just say without notifying their supervisor will be
You'll be
Deemed to-
fired.
voluntary resign without notice. I don't think we need to say
Removed from payroll.
removed from payroll.
You
Considered to
know, it
resign.
should be,
Yeah,
it
'cause-
really shouldn't be volunteer.
It's just
You know,
resigned,
But
to
you're
have
gonna
resigned.
have to document the termination. So you can't say he's voluntarily resigning, he did not follow the policy, therefore we're terminating him. So now thinking about it, you can't say he didn't voluntarily resign, he didn't show up for 3 days, so he's terminated.
Okay.
It should say result in termination.
Uh,
Because if you're saying volunteer, then you bring us your, your resignation. Like,
Right.
I'm in
So
Florida.
will be removed from payroll and
And
terminated,
Uh-huh.
or just will be terminated and.
Well, you could put
removed
just
from-
will be terminated.
Yeah,
You could put in there, if you want to be safe, you could put in there discipline up to termination.
Right, you don't wanna say maybe
So
terminate, it's
because
not.
then you would have to terminate him,
Right.
but, if he did like you said,
Like,
Right.
Yeah,
I was on vacation and, I got shot in the woods in Maine or something.
yeah, and I was unconscious, so I couldn't really.
So
follow
you
it.
say it can be disciplined up to termination.
Up to and including.
Yeah, up to and including. We're gonna discipline you, then terminate you.
And I think the whole thing about payroll they don't need to know.
No.
No.
It
We
should
might
be
leave them
obvious
on
if you're-
payroll.
Right, if you're terminated.
Right.
Well, you have,
Right.
if you
We would
put them
probably
off
leave
the
them on
payroll,
payroll,
you
but
may
not
have to pay them.
dispense
to
any.
pay their vacation. That's like, you're unplugging them from the wall, it's like what the government's doing now with the weeding and everything, they can't really hurt people. Let me show you dumber and dumber.
They might not make good, such and such a position, but maybe they reapply.
Yeah.
Where were we at?
Okay, which
I don't
one's
know.
next?
Did you
Oh.
hear that over 20 Doge employees resigned, saying they couldn't, having signed an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, they could not in good conscience continue their jobs because they were not serving the best interests of the United States. Only 20 though.
Well,
That's my concern. It should have been a lot more than that.
do breathing.
Well, before we get there, can we,
So
I've said that a doctor's note, I just feel like things have changed in the last 5 years to where if you are sick with the flu, you may be out for 4 days, and we don't want you coming in.
No, we don't. We just
But
wanna
we also
know
don't
where
really
you
need
are.
a doctor's note. So I said that a doctor's note is required for any absence due to illness extending
More than one calendar week. Yeah, I see your
That's
point.
fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, we definitely don't want people coming in.
I feel like it's,
And
2
who can
years
reach the
ago, if you had COVID, you were supposed to stay home for
Yeah.
what was it, like a week or
10
two?
days.
So you do have to tell people why you're
No,
out.
absolutely, but I just don't think we need a doctor's
No,
note
no, I
if
agree,
you're out for 4 days because you have the flu.
I agree.
So what are you gonna say
And
again?
how can you get a hold of the doctor to do something?
A doctor's note is required for an illness extending more than one calendar week.
For any absence due to illness.
Yeah.
Oh, and so then here's another.
So, by the way, I had a comment, so go, you do yours first and then.
So
we do
lunch break?
Yeah, so did you see my response, like,
No.
what if they have to go to the bathroom?
Oh, it's.
Is that a break? It's not a break? What is that?
It's like in the old days when you'd sit around there and watch the smoker go out and go smoke their cigarette and come back and you'd be like, well, where's my smoking break? I don't smoke it. It just kind of happens. So
Okay.
Um,
I didn't even do that.
my only concern with the paid 10-minute break.
I underlined may take. I don't remember why, but I don't know if I was thinking that you had to at least acknowledge you were taking your 10-minute break. So.
Why did I? Oh, here's what I was after. It all makes sense now. For shifts less than 6 hours. So we have some shifts maybe at the library,
That are what, like
at the
3 or 4
transfer
hours?
station.
4 hours.
We have some shifts, Laura's coming in now for a couple of hours.
Annabelle.
For a 2 or 3 hour shift, I don't think that you need to be guaranteed a break.
I think that might be state law.
It's not, I looked it up,
You're
I could be wrong. I
It's
think-
8 or 6 hours, you have to have a break.
6 hours.
6 hours or more, you have to have a break. You can offer breaks
Cause I just read that someplace when I was cleaning up.
at less than 6
I
hours.
threw it out.
If they do 3 hours, when you get into some of these meetings, we may have to take a break.
But we really need a break
Oh,
anyway.
You're not an employee.
So I forget exactly, but that was the main question I was reading. We have a couple of 2-3 hour shifts. 2 or 3 hour shifts.
Genius.
Like, there's some like 2 or 3 hour shifts at the library, right? We cannot guarantee them a paid 10-minute break where you're supposed to be free of all your responsibilities because
They're the only
It's
person
going out
there.
on duty.
they need to be doing that.
Yeah,
Or they could be the only person there.
And
It's-
at the transfer station, we're in a somewhat similar situation because we sometimes staff it with one person for maybe a 3 or 4 hour thing, but we can't really say you get a full 10-minute break because during a break, you're supposed to be able to be entirely free of any responsibility.
Yeah.
And so from my brief look.
I never had that in my entire life.
I remember having to have a
I
temp.
don't
Try being a teacher in a boarding school.
I think we should just leave that first sentence and delete the second.
I think so too.
Okay.
I think you're right, I don't think,
Take out the damn 10-minute break.
Okay.
6 hours, you have to have a break. I think 6 hours, you get a lunch break. and then-
30-minute unpaid lunch break.
Right.
Or it was what they're entitled to. As an employer, you can
So
offer a
that's what-
paid.
Like Molly gets that on Wednesdays, when she works 9 to 5 with a half hour, she closes the shop.
Yeah.
And she has a half hour. Other shifts are all 4 hours, except for your father's 2-hour ones, which they don't count.
And so another thing is like highway works 8 straight hours.
Yeah.
Technically, if any highway employee said, I want a 30-minute lunch break, we would have to accommodate their request. And we just have never had anyone do that.
just kind of take their breaks when they get to it, don't stop doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Do it that way.
I mean, at most places, you have to have a rule that says they're allowed to this, because you're always one bad supervisor away from a problem, right? So, but I think at the end of the day, people do what is social more of that job is,
And what makes sense.
and what makes sense. And when they don't, you have to have a conversation.
If you stare at a computer for 8 straight hours, you're not gonna be very productive.
You're
Yeah.
not going to be productive,
So-
no. All right, are we good with our thing as amended?
I am.
All right. Approved 2/25/25, files saved.
I keep thinking these things and backing up a second though. So, highway comes in from 7 to 3.
Yeah.
That's 8 hours, right?
Mhm.
They're entitled to an unpaid lunch break,
Yes, if they want.
so they're only working 7.5 hours.
No. Then they would work till 3:30.
That's what, but, okay, that's why
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying, because a lot of places do that, like we used to do that. You actually they had an hour of unpaid lunch,
Mhm.
but they had added an hour, or,
Okay, yeah.
no, they added a half an hour on the other side.
Hmm.
Because they actually gave you an hour. So you actually work 7.5 hours a day. With 8 hours, in an 8.5 hour period, you work 7.5 hours a day.
It's one of the things about being salaried, you never think about these things,
Yeah.
because like, if you're saying, it doesn't matter when you take your lunch or how long.
Right.
You can't stop
But
until
yeah.
your job is done, you gotta get stuff done, so you work until it's done.
Yeah.
Whether you took 20 minutes for lunch, you ate at your desk while you're on the phone, or what.
Alright,
Alright.
next up.
Close that one, what's next? Bereavement leave.
On that, I don't, the department heads will put the request in with the administrator, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the select board, does it?
I don't think so.
I don't.
It doesn't say, it currently
Doesn't say
reads, they put in their request with their supervisor, department heads with the town administrator, and the town administrator with the select board chair.
I think what you're
Yeah,
looking at as that it will just make its way up the chain.
Yeah,
I think what it's saying is you just basically do it to your immediate supervisor.
well, that's.
So it's 3 different,
We put in a request with their supervisor, department heads, we had the select board, so I said just.
Yeah,
your
first sentence.
copy's all messed up.
The first, I have my, I just printed it out, it says, will put in request with the select board, but I think that goes, isn't that like an old
Frank's
vacation?
copy is all messed up.
Do you want me to put there,
I got
like,
it out of her
I could
email.
change the following word, employees will put in their request with their supervisor, department heads will put in their request with the town administrator, and the town administrator will put in their request with the select board. Does that make it clearer?
Yeah.
That makes it clear.
Okay.
And the
Everybody
select board members will put in their request with Mickey.
No, I don't give any time off. I'm old school.
Yeah, you could have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
That's right.
So just so, the other thing is that employees shall be permitted to meet 3 consecutive workdays, so meaning that it could wrap around a weekend, so if you took a Friday as a bereavement
No,
day.
calendar days.
Well, this is 3 consecutive working days.
No, it says 3 consecutive calendar days.
Mine must have changed. I have one that you sent that says.
There's
working
about
days.
15, there's about 15 different.
This is
types.
the one, JM, you must have changed that one, I don't know, I don't remember
I
that.
have the one.
How did these just get
This-
changed?
This is the one I have, this is the original one that you
I
sent.
feel bad, I don't feel bad
It
about
is?
myself now.
This is the one that he sent back to me, and it wasn't noted that got changed.
Yeah, I
What the heck?
Did I forget to track change this one?
I don't know,
So I
cause I had other comments you made, but I wonder if you made some changes and then hit.
Well, each document's its own, so I probably didn't hit track changes on this one.
Or what you might have done is start making changes,
No, but
Realize
this
you
one,
did?
I have no changes
Right.
on. This is what I sent you in there.
the bereavement leave one.
So this-
okay.
That's why Frank's thing looked all funny.
I thought those were the stuff.
Yeah, we probably, for the next parts, let's just make sure that we're all,
Looking at the same copy.
yeah, whether that's you sending it out and then
Okay,
us sending it back or however that looks, but.
Do you want us to
So-
do the changes and send it back to you? Susan?
no, I think I got them all.
So
Not good, but still, I'm starting forward.
Oh, going forward?
Yeah.
Sure, if you look at them beforehand,
Yeah.
like what happened was he looked at those, sent them to me,
Mhm.
and, I tried to make some, I tried to make sure I made the other changes that he wanted, like including switching department head to supervisor when it was appropriate. I think there's at least one thing where I wanted you guys to discuss it.
So let's
So why calendar days?
figure out
versus-
calendar days versus work days, right? So work days for somebody could be a town clerk.
Mhm.
It could be, they have a week
Yeah,
off.
Yeah.
right, and that's not,
I don't know if that really makes sense for bereavement.
No.
I don't know, but like,
There's extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
If it's an unexpected spouse.
Yep.
That could be weeks, right?
Right.
We'll deal with that as it comes up.
Right.
But for the bare minimum of, it might be your grandparent who was 95. I think 3 calendar days is sufficient.
right, but 3 calendar days includes weekends.
Yeah,
So it's like your bereavement is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have to come back, but it's a week, you have the weekends off anyway.
yeah,
So if you had vacation, so why would
well, a
you be
lot of
working?
funerals and memorials are on weekends.
Right, so then my point is that you would have the weekend off anyway, so you wouldn't need to have.
Well, that's kind of the case too, right?
Right. So that's what I mean, so it's like,
Look, if you have to travel to Alaska or China,
It's gonna be more than a day.
take PTO.
If you have to go to China, you don't go.
Those are kind of exceptions, but in general, if there's a memorial service for my grandparent in Worcester,
Mhm.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday is sufficient if the funeral's on Saturday. And if it's on Sunday, I might do Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
and if it's your kid, you're gonna be taking some paid time off.
And if it's Wednesday, I'll take Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? But usually stuff is on weekends.
So I think calendar days is a smart.
And also, funerals are changing so much from when I was a kid. Since COVID, I think in particular, but now people don't get buried for months, or they get cremated and then there's a memorial service a year later.
Right.
It's
My
very
brother's sitting
different.
on myself in the job.
Oh, my God. My sister did that with my brother.
Wait a minute, he's
That
not-
was ridiculous.
he's not in the passenger seat next to you in the Tesla.
So I think it,
Tesla buries you automatically. Feature, you have to pay extra. 10 grand extra.
only if you,
True.
only if it happens during a self-driving incident.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think you're right. I think you're right. There was a
Yeah.
small print.
Anyways, I think it's fine
Okay.
for 99%, and in that 1% you wanna take PTO, you'll figure it out with your supervisor.
Alright, so I'm saving.
Yep.
I'm saying we approved it today. And
Did you have a thought?
Are we up,
Okay.
how's our
No,
time?
I'm
Are we
down,
still
I'm
at-
fine with everything. so,
Code of conduct, you didn't change anything, correct?
If I probably didn't send it to you, so I probably didn't.
Yeah, you did.
There was a couple that I didn't.
Right,
Hold
yeah.
on, let me just check real quick.
Well, he didn't change anything, which doesn't mean nobody changed anything, but I just wanted to make sure that we were all looking at the same copy now. Just checking.
What is the,
The only thing I had was, and I got it written, where we have all employees are expected to, I said are required to.
where's that?
Which is this?
Under employee standard of conduct,
Which line item?
it's coming down, you see the bold employee
It's on
standard,
that first page, the
Yeah.
first bold.
there
All expect, I see.
are required.
I guess I would ask, what is the ethical conduct of town business?
Where is that?
First sentence, second paragraph. When employee conduct causes the ethical conduct of town business to falter.
That sounds,
Where are we?
First sentence, second paragraph,
Be on time for their work?
code of conduct.
That is a very,
that's a dumb.
strong sentence. You haven't heard the rest of it, maybe.
Yeah.
Public confidence may be destroyed.
When employee conduct causes the ethical conduct of town business to falter, or even have the appearance of seeming to falter, public confidence may be destroyed and the problems rather than the achievements of town government may become the focus. That's a pretty.
I think it's not necessarily untrue, but
Yeah.
it's over the top for our purposes.
Yeah, I think so.
There is some of that going on though in this country.
I'm just gonna say, I think that sentence may have applied to the things going on in this building at one time in the last 5 years, at least.
What could you be talking about? I don't know if you want to
Emphasize that?
emphasize this or
I don't
shrink it or
I would kind
edit
of,
it a
And
little
I
bit.
was glad.
It just seems kind of like.
I think the next one takes care of it more for our purposes. In order to ensure the trust of the public,
Yeah.
employees of the
Mhm.
town will conduct themselves according to ethical standards of conduct detailed below.
I think
That's
so,
a
too.
separate.
I
so
think we
delete
can
the second
delete the
paragraph.
one that's like,
Over the top.
you know, if you do something immoral, the town will be destroyed.
I mean,
Damn.
personally, I feel like that sentence does describe what was happening in Monterey for a period of years. And that said, I'm okay with removing the paragraph. I'm now removing the paragraph. Are we all agreed?
Yes.
Alright.
And I always get like caught up, the second one of employee standards of conduct, conduct personal business, I always kind of get, because we all take phone calls,
Yeah.
My wife calls me, I get an email, the kids come up, swing by to say hello.
Yeah,
So I don't know, it just feels again
strict.
strict, like all we're gonna do.
How would you suggest wording it to make it clear that you shouldn't be doing too much? Like, we all know that happens occasionally,
I would,
but we don't wanna make it a pattern that they're on the phone all day.
yeah, I would use like excessive, I guess, something like that, where.
That's excessive.
Define just excessive.
Yeah, I
I know,
know, then you're
that's-
down.
Wait.
Yeah,
Wait,
Yes.
good God.
Yeah.
It's almost should be the opposite. You're expected to not, well, how did we word it last time, because we came up,
we did. have
last time we just
something
were
about that.
strict, but it was more about using town computers
Yeah,
to do personal business, but.
or accountability. I think we, conduct personal business, including.
Prohibited activities include personal business, political, and fundraising activities. Personal
Maybe-
business is right in there, it's a prohibited
Employees are
activity.
required
Yeah.
to conduct personal business, including but not limited to. So I guess you gotta take that first part, all employees are required to conduct personal business, including not limited to personal phone calls
Outside of,
outside of their work location.
right,
But, yeah, when, I don't know, sort of stuck on how to.
Well, maybe just conduct personal business outside of their work location, outside of work.
Yeah.
Something about it being very specific makes it seem really overly strict, because outside your work location, if you have a 10-minute paid.
yeah,
break
where,
or-
where exactly is your work location? Does
Yeah.
that mean your desk?
That's actually, I think
Does it
work
involve-
location is
Yes, and I-
Yeah.
overly,
Yeah. My daughter called
encompassing.
me
Archaic.
every day when she got home from school, because she got home before her brothers did. But she just would call me and say, home safe,
How about
basically.
if you speak to the outcome you're looking for? So,
How would that sound?
so to conduct any personal business while at work in a way that is professional and does not severely impact productivity, something like that. You're talking about,
Yeah.
yes, it's all open to judgment, interpretation, but that, like, it's kind of, it when you see it, a call back, hi, mom, I'm home.
Yeah.
Sure, sweetheart, glad, make sure you have your milk and cookies and do your homework. Okay, that didn't impact, but I'm on a fire call and I'm making plans for the weekend to go to the hockey game. Now, I'm not saying anybody would do that, but that's clearly an egregious.
Give me the wording again, conduct
Are
any
you kidding?
personal business. Yeah, right. Conduct any personal business.
In a way
In a way,
that does not, you can change this any way you want, but
Yeah.
that does not severely compromise productivity, or what was the other thing, or professionalism.
You need severely in there?
Yeah, I would get.
I
would not
dropped it,
have
actually,
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
dropped it. and-
That's fine.
I won't work for you, you might.
Conduct any personal business during the workday.
During the work, or work.
During work hours.
Work hours,
During
right.
work hours.
Some people have night shift.
That does not
Hours
impact.
in a way that does not compromise productivity or professionalism.
Oh, that's good.
The only thing I would change, I don't know if other people care, is I would say work performance
Work performance, I like
instead
it,
of productivity.
Yeah, that's even better, that's broader.
I like it. Why is this? No, okay, try it again.
I had my college roommate calls, I'm on the phone for an hour, that's another story.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be as egregious as my father's.
Okay, now, are we good? Code of conduct?
I don't know if you wanna add.
No, we have one other thing. Under, in that same group, but down a bit, it says perform all duties assigned by your, department head or designee. Is that an example of one where we should make it direct supervisor?
I think so, I mean,
I wasn't, I wasn't really sure, that one seemed like a real possibility, but, okay, so I'll say accept, because I did put that one in. Further down, keep accurate track of your time through our timekeeping system with the help of your department heads for other required forms. It's actually the department head. I'm like, do we have a lot of people that are answering to a supervisor who in turn answers to a department head? I don't think so. So it's under employee standards of contact, but it's on the second page.
Like department head or direct supervisor kind of
Yes,
thing.
what's appropriate there, because there are times where the supervisor isn't actually a department head and therefore doesn't have the correct permission for entering out.
Yes.
That is the question.
There's just a handful of people who need help through a department head. That's
So
really
do we
just
leave a
highlighted.
department head?
Yeah, everybody else.
but I just
Yeah,
think direct
but-
supervisor sets the rate,
Supervisor.
it's more, we give everyone, through their job description, and when we hire them a direct supervisor, I just think the point is, that's the person they go to with problems, and if they can't solve it, they take it up the chain of command, but, 99 times out of 100, we don't have 100 employees, most people's direct supervisor is probably a department head, but like, if you're a department head,
Right, okay.
it's a town administrator. And if Roger had a question about, hey, I have this question about payroll, he'd probably take it to us.
Yeah.
Right, so again, and just below that,
Well,
notify
how
your
does the
department
rate
head
matter?
by phone call or email if you're gonna be late from coming to work or be at the office.
But if you're
Again,
gonna have a paid fire department staff, it's gonna be a supervisor, it's not gonna be the department head all the time.
it might be whoever is
That's
on,
true.
the on-call.
It might be your.
So
direct.
stick
So you
with
can
direct supervisor,
direct supervisor,
done.
You know, add text in there for phone call, text, email. Doesn't really matter.
Uh,
Notification.
I,
I mean, if you wanna get there.
I
I'm
think we
old
said
school.
notify, we're not telling them how they have,
Oh.
by phone call or email itself. Do we have to, that's a good question, do we have to put text in there as well, or would
Well-
text count as a phone call?
I would say we prefer phone calls.
Is that, you would prefer phone calls?
Well,
or-
I mean, suppose someone's ill and, they call in or they send a text, I'm sick.
I think that's real minutia. If they're.
Yeah, but what happens, you could say, well, do you think you got something coming up? Do you think you'll be here, tomorrow or something like that? I don't know. I'm old school, so.
Text, email, it's all the same.
I mean, on the other hand, with the text stream, there's a record that the conversation occurred.
Sure. But there's a record with the phone too, you look at the number calling.
Oh, you can, there's a record that the call was made, but you can't document what occurred.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought you weren't available.
They canceled the meeting. All right.
Why, you were hoping I wasn't there? Is that what you were saying?
I thought you were coming.
Yeah, picked up on that quickly. What? You picked up on that quickly.
I didn't see nothing, I didn't hear
You
nothing.
should see this lady dance.
Did we approve it?
I have,
I think I know.
Okay, no, go.
the last one in that group, accept personal responsibility for your actions. That's all well and good, but what if I really didn't do anything bad?
Well, that can be perceived.
So I did something, you're telling me it's I messed up my code of conduct, but I'm like, well, let's have an arbitrator and tell me if I really did something bad, what kind of responsibility? I didn't do anything bad. Who's to determine whether I did something bad?
How about responsibility?
Well,
for
but it doesn't
resolving
say
the situation?
accept that you did something bad, no matter what you did. It says accept responsibility for your action, for
Whatever your actions were. If
Good or
you're
bad.
claiming you didn't do, whatever you did wasn't a problem, then it has to be resolved, but we had an employee a while back that kept claiming that it wasn't a problem that they were late, repeatedly, quite late. This was at that time station.
Oh, yeah,
They,
that's what I thought.
they ended up being dismissed, but they refused to accept that it was a problem. It was a problem.
Mhm.
They may not have accepted it, but that resulted in a dismissal. So we're saying that if you do something, you're saying, well, what if you don't think it was wrong? Well, he didn't think it was wrong, but that didn't make it not wrong.
Right.
We only owe them an explanation if there's not
Yeah.
improvement, we have a right to.
These again are all,
How would you change
I don't
the,
know.
yeah,
Just like,
we're basically saying if you do something, you better stop.
well, we're basically just saying that whatever. What is that? You gotta take responsibility for it, whether it's good or bad.
You have to take
Yeah.
responsibility for this.
If you did it, you did it, and that's the deal. All right. Are we done then? Date approved?
Approved.
approved.
Okay, approved. I'll save. All right, do we wanna put these away or we wanna finish? What is it?
It's
5:57.
5:57, so.
Does anybody have any-
Yeah, I
We're
did.
flexible. You can take fun on it.
Well, the whole compensation.
Overtime pay
Yeah, the overtime phase thing is,
and
So-
actual work hours.
the phrasing of that section is peculiar.
Is that?
It is under schedule.
Oh, Bob, your mic
It's
is
the
on.
phrasing, An employee's
Hi, Bob.
actual hours of work.
So,
I'm sorry, what was it? I missed it. Oh, the actual hours of work.
Yes.
There's actually shown not.
It doesn't include overtime pay, that's the weird part. And I think what they were trying to say was that when you calculate it on the timesheet,
Oh, yeah.
there's the hours you work, it's the hours you actually work that are regular hours.
Yeah.
Right, it doesn't include vacation, blah, 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 and it also doesn't include overtime, which is a separate. We're not saying you don't get paid for
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
saying it doesn't count as a regular work hour. Because it's overtime.
Mhm.
But it's oddly phrased, so do we wanna come back to this, cause it's gonna be a
Yeah,
conversation? Okay, I'm fine with that. Alright,
But maybe we'll do it after, depending on how this goes. We knock those two out and say part one is done,
okay,
so we can move on to part two.
alright, but we're rolling this into part two,
I think maybe after we meet with the finance committee, we might tackle those two.
okay. That's go real hard. Wow.
So we're just waiting on Steve.
Gluten-free snacks.
Plain snack.
Bathroom break.
Well, did you read what they are? Did you see them?
Yeah, I saw them on a previous flight,
Yeah, they were great, right?
it's rare to get something like this, it's actually.
That good.
quick bathroom break,
Also-
we got a couple minutes.
So
So
it's
wait for
weird.
Steve.
It can be really awesome, or it can be like, oh my
What
god.
is
Quinoa.
quinoa? Yes, and I think that, responded to that guy. Did you see what he wrote? Or you didn't see? I tried to make put words in your mouth. I said, Susan and I both think there's benefit in it. All right, I wanted to make sure
I mean, I'm bummed about the part that we can't pay for, but what
but,
can you do?
you know, I might even offer them on, you know, cause I've done work for them, so they know my, you know, I facilitated the whole small business, so that was dealing with, 125 small business owners. I did a good job for them. So, I would facilitate it, but I think if we can get that group to say that's what we need, then we can get them to fight for it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I
It's a
do.
everything's a process, you know? But I thought it was good that we met with him and we opened the dialogue.
I thought so too, and I mean, I think there's a lot of feeling, like, a lot of feeling when I was, you know, we're just waiting so I can chat.
Yeah,
I finally talked to Mary Brazzi, who is the town administrator in Egremont,
right, oh, yeah.
about their plan, and I was talking to her about that, and she's like, oh, that's such a great idea. I mean, I think everybody acknowledges that trying to get training is gonna be, that we basically need to encourage more people to consider it as a career, both fire and EMT.
Yeah, and we can talk to what's her name down south, you know, I'll talk to Mary Beth again, she was in negotiations. But I think the key thing is like what we were talking about, we also asked him about his idea also Lee Davis, like, we can't solve all our problems anymore. And sometimes like this one, like as Jeff been saying, this is a much longer, I mean, we're doing something now, but there's a longer train that needs to be running at the same time. And getting that.
And it isn't just
The-
us, I
well,
mean, the
sure,
reality is
we
it's
do
statewide and
firehouse,
actually not
right.
even regional.
So
it's
I have some
US-wide.
people, like, I think, you know, I actually think, well, she's attached too, I think maybe Marie would be a great facilitator.
For,
That group, he said he doesn't have a staff person, he just lost them and he doesn't wanna hire someone. So the idea, he must have money in the grant, so I said I have a few names, I know a few people that
she may
do.
be maxed out, but.
Right,
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
would.
most people are, but I mean, if we're gonna do, you know, it's 3 meetings between now and June, like, I can
It's
handle
not
it.
a huge.
I've had a contract, they know me, I've done work with them, I can be even my, you know, I can facilitate it. And
So-
because the idea is, we want someone that can facilitate it, that can drive too, like, well, you'll hear when we were saying to this guy, we need money for that, that's the argument, like, this is what, if you're gonna sit on the staff board, tell them what the towns need. And if we can come up with a real bunch of actual practical things, then we can start lobbying that.
Yeah.
And getting the towns on the same page and getting those that have their heads hidden because Yorkshire Regional Planning, which they all pay to belong to. No, it's true,
I
doing
know.
a service, I think it's gonna help them, everyone.
Have a good night.
Alright.
Are we expecting Steve?
Yes,
I thought so.
and
I always reach
Steve,
this committee where I need to put
FYI,
another coat on.
after the last meeting, I asked him if he would write the next article in the Monterey News about the information he shared, and he did. Isn't that great about like the tax rate? I thought that was a good one. Oh, that's good.
It always gets cold, as the sun goes down. I get cold.
It does get cold.
I know. At least it's warmer than it was earlier today, because obviously, did they meeting people got
I
here?
need to drive to Greenfield today.
I'm sorry.
I know,
Are
it
there
was beautiful.
continuing heating issues?
We ran out of oil again.
And then the burner wouldn't go back on.
But we don't have, I thought they were on auto,
We do.
and they just can't.
They were gonna, actually, they were scheduled to come this week, and,
How are you,
just-
Jeff? So you were here all week or?
Weekend because of all
When's
the
your
cold
next,
weather we had. So also, you know.
I'm here for a while. Lauren, we were down there.
It could
She
have
was
been
down there just
because
recently.
I was having the temperature a little bit higher
Higher.
later in the evening, just in case there were meetings, but
She
like.
went down yesterday. Went down.
Who's with her when you guys aren't there?
Just full-time caregivers.
Yeah,
Which is nice, and you like them,
Yes,
they-
it is, it's
And
bad.
she's in
My
a different
family
apartment, in the
including
same
what?
building. She's in her own apartment, in the same building.
Yeah, that,
Yeah, it shouldn't go that level.
Lauren
What
happened
happens
to
is
be
now
there at this
come back
valve
and
on
leave
Monday.
them.
The valve?
Came back
She had
and
a
let
valve.
He's gotta do
oh,
some-
eval, I think it's a valve.
Uh,
Is that what the cardiologist say, heart valve?
It might be slightly more.
She went on Sunday for
But yeah.
Monday's appointment.
They need to be putting that on
Yesterday.
sooner cycle.
You know, my
I just
sister,
was
you
like,
know,
oh,
like,
and I was like,
my
oh,
younger
it's
sister
cold in here.
has been,
61.
I mean, she works from home, blah, 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 she still works full time.
But
And she's been
So
saying that, I mean, which is
I
not great,
think
she's
I
not my
had- I
husband, but
also may have had
it's really been great,
the evening
because
that water was
even though they have
involved,
full-time
so I
help,
brought her.
orchestrating
Go to-
the
go to-
siblings,
Yeah.
well,
You have a-
All right, let's
Let's get started.
let's call
So
to
we,
order,
yep. So we're doing where to go.
finance.
Finance committee is called to order at 6:04 PM.
And we have Eileen and Jeff, but we don't have Steve, but we're hoping to get Steve.
Okay.
Should we get right into fire department staffing? And,
Okay.
and scheduling, Susan asked to schedule some info sessions.
So first, let's do that first, cause it's easier, I think. I've been pounding on this the last week, none of us, and by us, I mean Roger, I, and Sean and Chris, are completely comfortable with the figures we've got. We recognize, and by recognize, I mean everybody recognizes that we need some input from some people with more experience doing 24/7 staffing. Especially to work on the overtime thing. We're coming up with some ideas for how, like different ways to intervene, maybe even when if we have 6 people not filling Kelly days, so we have days where we only have 1 person on. We're in the process of trying to get Ryan from the chief and Lee, to work with us, to talk to us about how he manages some of that stuff and to look at the numbers to say what we might have missed or what we could change to bring the numbers down. And Roger's also gonna, and Sean is fine with this, Roger's gonna reach out to the consultant that worked with Otis, who is a former fire chief for a fairly large town, to also find out what it would cost to have him also look at the plan. Because we all feel like this is a big thing that we're undertaking, there's a lot of details involved in 24-hour staffing, they're complicated, and having another set of experienced eyes look at it would be really smart.
Where money for that?
That's why we wanna find out what it would cost.
Yeah.
Ryan won't charge us anything, right? But-
Gary told me the other day they're spending upwards of 40,000, I think I saw in Otis. And, I went to their meeting last night about emergency service. And
So they did have one last night.
Yeah, but they got
Okay.
the fire people, and the EMS people got called to the fire in Sheffield.
Yeah,
So I learned a lot, we don't have to get into that detail, but, Gary's very pleased with what they've done because,
and I think by the way, I think the ambulance, the fire chief is also the head of ambulance, I think he's.
yeah, he was there, I guess there was a young woman, the EMS person, she was doing all the numbers, she was talking, we can get into the details, but it was just interesting to watch, they're struggling with the same thing as us. And they have a bigger problem, it's billing afterwards,
Right,
that they gotta do, and so, but I don't.
What
it's a-
they build insurance?
Yeah, they're building
they
insurance,
do-
but they're going from a private sector business and they're handing it off
That's like the
to
problem.
the Otis government. And they don't know how much cash they have in reserve in the private company. They're gonna use ARPA funds to help them meet their needs. They're not gonna be full-time to begin with, 24/7.
they are full-time, but not 24/7.
Is that right? Yeah, and they're looking at a 2.5%. They got the whole educational thing going on with Sandersfield, and that's gonna cost them. So
You mean, you're talking about this Otis school
Well,
system?
so,
just for
yeah,
clarity.
they-
I knew what you meant, but other people might not.
so it's money.
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna pay a higher portion, and so they have that concern. I got a follow-up with Gary. They had I don't know what her exact job title was, but she knew everything going on.
Ooh,
So I'm gonna I hope to see Gary at the transfer station in the morning.
By
Yeah.
she, is it their town
I
administrator
don't know
or
if
the
it's-
person who works for the
The
ambulance?
town administrator, I think she's the town administrator.
Randy?
I don't know, I thought they called her Rebecca, but I thought, but I don't know, I may have been wrong. But I'm gonna follow up with Gary on that and get more idea what they're doing and stuff like that.
It would be good to know who that is.
Cause they're going through the same thing we're going.
I mean, I think the ask for the consultant for this particular piece may be smaller, but it may not. I don't know, I'd at least
You're
like to
also
know what
further
they might,
along, you have
yes.
a starting point,
And,
you're
and if
asking
we
for
have a
eyes on
plan
it.
and we're asking
Right.
for
Well-
a set of eyes on the plan,
Right,
so it
that's a
might be
little
a
different.
smaller
Yeah.
piece, but I
I
don't know,
don't
we can
know
at least
if they-
ask and find out if we wanna pay it.
You know,
You can't
the
decide if
part,
you wanna pay it if you don't know what the bill will be.
part I think is, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And what I did was, I found trying to understand how they did labor, I found a copy of the Fair Labor Standard Acts for fire and rescue people. And then, you know, I did
I
a
was
spread.
going through it myself.
So, you know, but I
trust me,
got
I went
copies
through it.
here that if people want to read it, because it really gives you a sense, you know, that you can take it,
Mickey might want.
how to do it. And they don't start overtime until they get 53 hours a week. We have them by the numbers you gave out
50.2.
to 50.2. And,
So there's a reason for that though, it has to do with how you, the whole Kelly Day thing, how you schedule them in. So there's no comfortable way to build in the number, if you do then, I can explain it to you outside of this meeting if you want.
but I
But the
think,
number of hours in the,
I-
basically you either work or you don't work.
I know,
right?
I think what you have like, there's these work rules in there, I don't want to quote them because I might get them wrong, and you get them, and then you got a month period. But if you're over that, you can use the Kelly Day to give them the day off, so you're not doing it on overtime. But are you hiring someone to cover their shift on overtime to do it?
Right.
So that's the thing, that you get into, you know, when.
Kelly?
It's named after a fire, I looked it up,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's not a requirement, it's not, you know, they go into if you look under the Kelly, you can say, if you're basically saying, yes, if they sleep in the firehouse, because it's a 24-hour shift or more, they get paid. But you also have the right to say if they have a lunch break, you don't have to pay them for the lunch break. There are certain ways, you know, people apply it different ways on there, but if you do
It
it.
also depends if they have a union or they don't have a union.
Well, those are union
Or how
rules,
hard-
or
those
how-
are union
Or how
rules.
wide up they are for staffing.
You can't open it.
And
Youngin can do it.
Don't
So-
worry, I'll get it, I got it. So, I have a question for you, Susan, on that spreadsheet. Well, one, I went ahead and did a calculation because of the holidays. If you have to do holiday pay,
Right, so the holiday thing isn't in there, that was one of the things that we flagged.
okay, I did a calculation for you.
Yeah,
I did it, I figured it, you know, difference additional pay per hour because of time and a half. I took the average rate that you had up there, it works out to about $10,000 a year.
so I don't know if you saw it, but on the spreadsheet, there's a thing that talks about holiday pay versus front-loaded vacation time. Did you see that on there?
No, I don't.
Okay, so down, it's on the right, it starts in column J down, in the 40s. But it's not included in the numbers at the top, and this is another one of the things we have to figure out how to handle.
But
So, what?
I think the question is, how do we take this in incremental steps?
How do we-
Do it incremental, not trying to force it all in 1 year.
Well, so I haven't done this with Susan yet, and I will. I was talking to Steve about it. I think there's always a factor we can apply. So I think we can take like a amalgamum of someone consider the holiday does not apply like a 20% or 30. I'll figure out the number, apply it, and then once you have those numbers, we can look at incremental. I think that's what you've been waiting to do.
Yeah, there's two pieces. The holiday thing, the way that the most sensible way is to have them work holidays, especially with a 6-day cycle. It usually doesn't, the same person's not gonna get hit by the
Right,
same holiday every
right.
time. If we just have them work the holiday at their regular pay rate, we have kind of two options. We can then do the same thing we do with the police department, where if you work a holiday, you're basically getting what do you call it, double time and a half? Because if you hadn't worked, you would have been paid for that day.
Mhm.
And if you're working, you get time and a half for working on the holiday. So essentially, people who are in emergency services that work on a holiday get paid double time and a half.
Right.
The way,
Double time
let
or
me finish. Right, they call it that, because you're being paid for the holiday as though you had it off, but you're actually working, but, so you're paid time and a half.
So 2.5 times,
Correct, so your
Okay.
total is 2.5 times
okay.
for that day. The way a lot of departments do it is they give them, they preload extra vacation days, so that you work the holiday at your regular pay rate, but you're getting an additional day of vacation.
Yeah, but
That can be, if you can fill that with a per diem, then you're paying 2 instead of 2.5.
Well,
But-
I mean, you
I'm
bring up,
interrupting you.
you bring up an interesting point. So you got, if you add it to the vacation, you take their vacation, and I think we have a vacation issue with this too. If you add that vacation, then your number of total days off between holidays, it just starts expanding or something.
No, but they're not taking holidays off.
Because
They don't
the
get
other
holidays
thing,
off, that's
yeah.
the whole point.
the other thing I'd caution just quickly about vacation we need to talk about, you give 96 hours for a new employee, that equals out to 2.4 weeks. If someone starts in another department, they get 40 hours, 80 hours of vacation time. So a fire person is getting more hours of vacation for a new employee as a guy that would start at the DPW.
How'd you get 2.5?
2.4 is in your spreadsheet.
Is it?
It's 96 hours.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So it's 96 hours. If you were working at DPW and you started at the same time, you were only at 80 hours.
But you can't give vacation
Well,
in
I mean,
less than
but-
48-hour increments for a system that works on.
I know, but I'm saying is you're starting to build up other issues.
Okay, but also those workers aren't working 50-hour weeks.
Yeah, but those
They're
other
not.
guys, the other side of the coin is they get 4 days off after they work the 48. So I mean.
What I was trying to say is there is a way, I just can't wrap my head around it now, I said, Steve and I talked about it briefly, but there's a way to look at, when we look at it, we know that there's another talk. We talked about the chief, we talked about there is definitely other push out when we do this. But I think step one is to get some numbers that we're with, and the idea of whether we're doing it vacation days, this or that, we don't have to make a decision. We'll come up, when I look at it with Susan, we'll come up with some factor, 20%, 30%. We'll take different assumptions from the holiday, this and that, right? And make like we don't know which we're implementing yet, but overall, the average of that is something. So we apply like a factor to the salaries to come up with the budget number. Once we do that, right? You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
not sure I understand what you mean by the
So
factor.
what a lot of times when we don't know exactly how we're implementing, right? So like, we don't know how many people we're bringing on, like, it's done a lot in especially in government with, health benefits, insurance, there's a number, right? Like 26% is the average. So we don't like make those decisions, we apply the pool of the money to it and it comes close. So
Okay.
we have to think through all the issues you're saying to apply a pool, but that will let us tag down a number that will hopefully cover everything, but doesn't lock us into decisions, is it holiday or not. When we do that, we will show you those assumptions that went into that factor, and then we can have the conversation. What does that do about the police chief's salary? What does that do about vacation? So we can see if it does push out and what's more honest. But I think we have to start with nailing down some numbers so we can move forward with how to break it down into increments.
Well, my feeling right now is that we should do this transition over 2 to 3 years and not try to do it all next year.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you want to do that, we have to do a
So-
full budget and then look at it, is what we're
Yeah,
saying.
which I'm trying to do. One thing I will tell you is I did run a scenario of so if you're saying do it over 3 years, I still think it's better to go with a 24/7 service, even with fewer people, than to try and transition through a daytime service and 1 year later switch that. And there's a second part that makes a big difference, which is the availability of people to fill these roles in this region is limited. By having the 4896, it enables us to draw from a much larger pool. People do, if you're running 12s, you can only draw from a local pool. If you're running 48s, you can draw from up to 5 hours away, which makes the hiring pool very different. And I think that's a really important thing to consider when we know that everyone who's trying to hire for this, every other town is struggling to find people.
What I'm trying to say is we can talk about this as an item. We need to nail down some numbers and show you if we staff it this way, it's that much. If we staff it this way, it's that much. If we apply this factor. So we'll try to work on that for maybe next week, right?
I
And
would
get
definitely take help.
and finally get you some numbers, and then after we do that, and we'll write all the assumptions, and then, once we have the big number, we can see, oh, like Susan's making the argument, it's better to do 24 but not, oh, that's only a $3,000 difference, but if it's a $10,000 difference, that's a different conversation.
What I,
So that's what I'm saying, we can keep on beating this dead horse, we really just need to
we
figure
need
out.
some actual scenarios, but I
So-
need greater
And,
confidence in
you know,
the
I think
quality
we
of
can,
the scenario.
right, and I think we can come up with, this, blended rate.
He's
that
so
we can
polite.
I know,
Just
let me
keeps
finish.
quietly raising his hand, but I would like to know. what
Okay,
he
but
was
I'm just saying, so that is the first step, and then we can look at all the things that people are concerned about. Jeff?
Agree.
Thank you.
However, the
Disagree.
caveat is, no, it's not a disagree.
Okay.
The caveat is that the scenarios have to be done in a way that assures for coverage.
Of course.
So I know that's of course, but I want that
Yeah.
In the minutes.
explicitly stated, that the scenarios have to account for coverage and also response time. You're gonna hear me say that over and over again, that
You
response
won't get
time
any disagreement, and
is-
you won't get any disagreement up there
is
either.
key.
Yeah,
So it's not just coverage, because we can say, well, we've got one paid person and 3 volunteers, and this is the budget. Well, if the 3 volunteers, if one of the 3 volunteers is sick, and now you got only 3 people on the call that you need 4 on, or whatever the numbers are, then we're in trouble. So how do we assure for coverage and for rapid, not a decline in response time?
So
Okay.
one thing I will say is that one of the things I did this week was run a scenario of 3 people versus 6 people. I stuck with 24/7 because I think that we should begin as we need to continue, and switching that schedule doesn't make any sense to me. It's 24/7 that costs you money. So in doing that, I went with 3 people plus 2 12-hour per diems. Ran some other scenarios, talked through it with, I was uncomfortable. I originally had 24-hour per diems for the weekends. I picked, the weekend, but we know Saturday is the key day where it's really, really hard to get volunteers reliably. So one day has to be Saturday. We did figure out that we could maybe go with 2 12-hour per diems instead of 2 24-hour per diems.
This is on Saturday?
Well, no, one person in the house on Saturday, 1 person in the house on Sunday, or if there's another day that's traditionally very hard to get people to
Okay.
fill, it would be that day, so 2 12-hour per diem shifts. It comes out less than $200,000 less to do 1 person in the house versus 2 people in the house.
Repeat that again.
But that was about right? Yeah.
You said it's $200,000 left to do?
Yes, less than,
Yeah.
to have 6 people versus to have
20,000.
200.
I really think, and
But
so,
that's still not much.
we're
when
just
you
going-
consider
we're gonna
that you're
get-
talking about 3
Susan.
whole people.
I really suggest we keep on going in circles. We understand that we want to maximize coverage and response time schedule. We understand that we want to consider holiday, vacation, and Kelly days to minimize the impact as well as the other departments. We understand that we want scenarios to ramp up in 2 to 3 years. What we all have to understand is that we don't have, we're trying to get to something beautiful, so we want to do at least as good as we're doing now, and it should absolutely be better if there are 2 people in the house at all time, or than we can look at some
But we
day coverage.
could maybe go to
But
1
we've
person.
gotta nail down these numbers, we've gotta see the black and white, and we'll show it to you, because otherwise, we're
I
gonna
know,
eat up
Yeah,
all our
okay,
time
I
tonight.
understand what you're saying there, but we have to explain it to people. If we say next year, what are we doing in the,
Frank, we,
blah, blah, blah. You have to say, this is how we're gonna cover the firehouse. To start off in year 1, it's gonna be this, year 2 is
of
this,
course,
and this is the best information we have at this time.
right,
And it's gonna subject to change, because we're gonna try to come with partners,
right.
and-
But all I'm saying is, we all agree, let's get some numbers behind that,
Okay.
see what's eligible, and then we'll look at all the push out, and then we'll
Right.
show the scenario, we'll explain it, we'll write the staffing pattern, we all agree on that. And we all, I wrote it down, we're all on the same page of what the goal is. Now we gotta see where the numbers fall out, and what decisions we wanna make when we look at them, to make those arguments, and what choices, what's the trade-off, right?
Right.
So we gotta look at the numbers, otherwise we're gonna spend all this time talking,
When do you think, Susan, could we I know you might not be available to have a working meeting during the day or something
I'm
with
fine.
Roger and Sean, just to talk about it.
We've been doing it.
I know
a
you
lot.
haven't, but if we're gonna do it and get it on the official, you know, cause
Oh,
we
that's
could,
a good point. If
yeah.
you put it on.
we
if
put it
we
on the
post an
thing, you know,
agenda,
the thing, and
it's an
if
open
they can show
meeting.
up, that'd be good.
Mickey can come listen.
Right, no.
It allows
Look at
us,
your face.
it allows us to ask, because we're running out of time about
I
getting
agree.
answers.
So,
The bottom line is, I would like to consult with someone with more experience than anyone at this table has with 24/7 coverage.
we're gonna call that guy.
Yes.
At the
there-
same time, we're gonna figure.
No, I'm gonna, we're trying to,
consultant,
right, no, Ryan.
All right.
Right, because we
Oh,
don't even have
yeah.
to pay for that,
That's
and
good.
he's been running a 24/7 service.
Yeah, I've read their site, they don't have a lot of people for what they do, I'm not.
No, they don't,
I
but my
was kind of
point
bummed,
is,
because he's
right,
running ambulance service.
Yeah, and he's right, he says it's costing about $1 million, but it's a little sketchy because that building covers all of the services, including police. So some of the costs are being shared between those things, so it's not completely equivalent. Nevertheless, I feel like someone with experience doing this is
Okay.
going to see things and have solutions that we don't need to reinvent the wheel to do. I would like the opportunity to do that, and I'm happy to also work with anybody who wants to work with me. to do
No, but
this, because
I mean-
it's really hard and
Right,
I'm
Susan asked me and I wasn't available, so I think we can do it and lay it out in a way that you'll see the choices instead of we keep on going in
So
circles.
I'll go back to my original, can we have a working meeting?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, you tell.
Do you wanna do that before or after we meet with Ryan, so that we have some other ideas? Is it worth doing it before? So
I-
we
I
have
mean,
our
I would meet
meetings?
before.
Okay,
I'm going to listen and learn,
so
you know,
today
but-
is Tuesday.
yeah,
We need 48 hours. You wanna do it Friday?
I can't, I'll be.
You'll be away?
some-
Okay.
I can do it Monday, I'll be back Saturday afternoon.
Okay,
Can I make one other suggestion,
Please.
just to
go.
kind of put it on our posted board to say that in all likelihood, we're gonna be saying to the town that there's gonna be a substantial increase in our budget, in our expenses, because of these costs, of fire rescue
This
costs.
need, not the cost,
Well, we're paying for the,
paying for the
paying for
need.
that.
That's
The
good.
different-
Our need
Way to
is,
say it.
our need is the same, but our costs to satisfy that need are gonna go up, however you say it. Okay,
Well, it's
what I'm
important.
saying, but yes.
Right.
I'm not trying to wordsmith it,
Okay.
trying to get a point out. And the point is that I think we have a responsibility to the town to not just say, here's why these costs are what they are. I think we have a responsibility to also say to the town that here's how we're thinking long-term. And that this may be an interim solution, interim step towards a longer plan solution. We don't have the solution yet, but here's what we're gonna do to work on that solution. So the solution isn't just dependent on the people who have elected positions and those positions expire. That we're doing something to create a more enduring body that can help offer the select board ideas that can be then presented to the town if they have merit. But that because it's a long-term process and may take 3-4 years to figure out or more, that we have to have some type of work group, perhaps multi-town work group, but some type of plan that we say to the community, hey, yes, your taxes are gonna go up by this percentage in all likelihood. But, if you just look at the ambulance costs, I don't have to go through them, you all know them, that kind of increase is not sustainable. The increase of what our costs are gonna be for fire is not sustainable. And that we hear that, and here's what we're doing to address it. We don't have the answers yet.
No,
But it's not just gonna be
We're
the
working on
select
that.
board figuring it out in the midst of all the other stuff that it does.
Yeah.
And then when those positions changes, somebody loses interest
Right.
and it doesn't go anywhere.
So we had a meeting with the guy who had Berkshire Regional Planning Commission that went very well. He has some money to do a regional meeting thing. So we're gonna try to help him get some staff to do it, but he has a grant that he can, so we can have all the other towns. And we think elevating it to that level instead of us trying to do it would be a really good thing.
I don't have the sense that that's going to be planning how to do the nitty gritty of the fire.
But it's a process, that will be at least, what are the needs, what do people have, it'll be sharing information, and then from that meeting, when people start to share information, then there'll be trust, those with their heads in the sand will say.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I
It's
just don't know how.
I'm trying to,
whatever.
but it's regional, but we said, but that,
Right.
if we don't start that now, we're
Right.
never gonna get to next year, how do we find any
And
partners?
we don't need to decide that tonight,
But we have to have a process
but
to
we
do
can
it.
decide before the town meeting what we're gonna say to the town
Right,
in terms of
what.
our responsibility to be thinking about this and how we're
We're
gonna.
talking about some kind of like study board or.
I don't think we
Look,
should have a town committee,
you know,
I do not.
Well, I'm talking about something that
Yeah, but
lasts, that's
we
not
need to bring
dependent.
serious partners in here.
Yes.
You know, I don't need to talk to Sheffield, you know, if we're gonna do the Marlboro, or
And I-
Otis, or
I
Santa
talked to
Fe.
Well,
Lauren
the regional
today.
would be everyone, including the North
But
County,
I
they
am,
might have
I
more.
am concerned that if the
I think they're good.
complexion of the select board changes in a year, in 2 years, and maybe there's only one of you still here on the select board, and now the select board has a very different view, for whatever reason.
I don't disagree with you,
We had a
Jeff.
very different select board on Justin's first year in office.
I don't disagree with you in principle,
I
Jeff.
remember that.
I disagree with you possibly on the reality of finding the people to serve on that board.
That's okay.
Who will be more committed than the people that are on the select board.
That's,
Right?
that,
I don't-
can I
that's
just
the thing
finish the
that's gonna
thought?
happen.
That's okay, that's okay, Susan, that we may not be able to find that. My point is being able to say to the town, this is what we're gonna try to do to address it. It's not about your commitments, it's about the
Those
unknown.
people don't get appointed
Yeah,
for longer than 3 years.
I
either.
think,
There's no
listen,
continuity
with
guaranteed
all due
anyway.
respect, I think we're getting into,
The weeds?
not into the weeds, we're getting too
Poison
far
ivy?
out into the future when we don't even know what it is yet. We all agree, we have to have a way to include the town, to talk, to have stability, those go without saying. Basic steps to get this budget nailed down, because we've been going in circles.
Right.
The
I'm not
plan
talking
is,
about this budget.
right, that's my point, Jeff. We get it. We have to first get the money because we're gonna have to make some very difficult decisions, even, to do the 2-3 year thing. So we hear you, but right now,
I
it's
do
get
think
the,
it's.
talk to Ryan, get the budget, get some numbers, make some decisions. Think about who else might be regional partners to help elevate and start planning on how we are gonna set this up and find some partners in the long run.
I'm just
I do
asking
think
for,
it's worth reaching
You're
out,
not
and
gonna get
I'm gonna work
Oh,
on drafting a letter, maybe I can have a draft by next week. Asking the New Marlboro, Sanesfield, and Otis select boards to choose one of their members to come together to have a meeting, because I don't think having 12 people in the room is productive. But having 4 people in the room, you can actually have a conversation to share what we're thinking about and be like, look, we're looking to form some type of shared services agreement that will be enduring and that will be reasonable to the different communities, and this is what we're thinking about, and we want you to know exactly what we're thinking about. Or what are you thinking about? Are you willing to think about shared services? I'm totally
you're
down for
talking
doing
about
that.
solution, and all I'm talking about is commitment. All I'm talking about is saying to the town that we're committed to addressing this on a long-term basis. You're,
But we're never gonna get commitment from any group of people more than the people that are here, because nobody serves more than 3 years. Oh, maybe that's not
Okay,
true,
so-
there might be a couple of
so-
positions that are 5 years, but.
so there are positions that are 5 years. And if you created some way of having perhaps some of these people do that, that's fine. And you could create it for 5 years or whatever you did. But all I'm speaking about is not the solution now. I'm speaking about when you say to somebody, your taxes are going up, perhaps for some by a considerable amount. If we're a $5 million budget and we're adding 500,000, that's 10%. So your taxes are going up 10%. Well, a lot of people, that's a very big nut to swallow. And then to say, and that may happen again next year, and it may happen again next year. And we don't have a plan for long term. It's very different than saying it's going up 10%, if that's the number. And we are committed to addressing this in a long-term sustainable way, so we don't keep seeing, when we got the first increase from the ambulance, that was supposed to be it.
We know this. You want to say something?
So all I'm asking for is
I
that
just
commitment.
I think I understand where Jeff's coming from. I think there's really two parts to
Right,
this that we
that's what
have
I'm
to plan for. One, the override. Two, the actual budget, whatever for year one is. So the override is when you present the whole enchilada. By the time this is fully implemented, it will be $1.5 million on top of what it is today, whatever. You sell that. And if they don't buy that and you can't get an override, then nothing works, nothing.
Correct.
Right? So you have to you have to really plan for the override, and that's where you do the explanation, I think, where Jeff said, is that's where you explain why, what your goal is and why you need $1.5 million, but you don't need it this year. That it's gonna be held so that we have the ability to gradually increase the budget into it. So then you go and you sell the phase in, which I'm not really clear about the 3 years. Frank said he really feels 3 years is necessary. I
We need
just
to
wanna
look at the
know,
numbers.
what's the underlying assumption about 3 years, Frank? Maybe you could.
Well, I think it's good, I think ultimately we need a partnership, and we, with another town. 'Cause
So they buy us time.
it buys us time, because you're dealing with a lot of different personalities and needs, I went to the Otis meeting last night, they're having the same conversation about their EMS, and they got educational issues, and they're gonna look at the 2.5%. So everybody's gonna need time to do that, and I just don't think it's gonna happen overnight. But I like your suggestion, Susan, you get one person you update it, because there may be some things, like I learned a lot last night, what they're trying to do on hiring and stuff like that. So there's, you start that, but I just don't think going into it, we don't know what we don't know. So we start with some of the suggestions, we get a work group, get the schedule done, and we go that year one. We may say, okay, we think we can do this in year two, a fast partnership. I think we have to be careful on the partners we pick. I walked away from Otis that they would be serious about being a partner, that others might not be.
And I think, but at the end of the day, I don't disagree with you. I 100% agree with you. But from from a logistical standpoint, there are people that should be at least invited to the table, whether they end up being
Well, I
partners.
think they should be.
They also have to understand that, I think there's one elephant in the room, has to understand that that mutual aid relies on a certain level of mutuality. And if there's a decision,
We don't know what
we
that
don't
is.
have to go forward with anything in our town, we don't have to pay for any services because, Monterey's gonna have it and that'll be enough, or New Marlborough's gonna have it and that'll be enough. We don't have to pay for it. They have to understand that mutual aid involves mutuality. And at the end of the day, they're going to need to step up
I'm glad
to
hear
make
that.
sure that they're providing
Because
service.
I want to say, mutual aid was built on volunteer.
Right,
And
which-
being paid is what
which-
we're talking, the numbers we're
Which,
talking.
which is why I think a task force through someplace like the Regional Planning Association, here's the mutual aid stats, here's this, here's that, because we don't really have the resources to staff something like that, and we wanna be even-handed. So that's why I think, and it's gonna be a long process, it's not gonna be 2 meetings and they're in. It's gonna be trusting, are we giving real information, how are we making decisions, and then, that's who I wanna work with.
There are three,
So it's a runway.
there are three concepts that I think are getting conflated. Mutual aid is one thing, it's probably in our legislative, in our laws.
And we've signed an
And that's
Yeah.
what, that's when
But no
one
one
town comes to the aid of another.
Yep.
Okay. A partnership is another concept, is another model,
or shared
different than
services or whatever,
mutual
yeah.
aid. But a partnership
It is.
is a different model.
Yes.
And that is different from a third model, which is a district.
Yes,
And
Yes,
that is a more small region around here.
but
it would be-
it also comes
would be a
with a
district.
certain regulatory
So-
weight and,
So there's
Yeah.
different, and we have to be careful about the language we're using. And conceptually, in terms of process, which I would dare say I'm an expert on, in terms of 45 years of practice and process in lots of different organizations, that you have to have stakeholders. And to say 4 people in a room can do it better than 12, well, maybe they can brainstorm it better than 12, but they can't sell it better than 12 if the 12 aren't stakeholders.
I think
But
you're
you can't,
confusing
yeah.
2 things, Jeff.
you can't
The,
start
the
that conversation.
regional
Yes.
meetings,
In the
That
the
may be-
regional,
that-
right,
that
the
may be
regional
true.
meetings need to be bigger than that. and we need to be meeting with them separately. How we get this town to accept it, who are the early
Yes.
adapters, is a separate
That's a
issue.
separate issue,
So those need to
absolutely.
be separated
I'm just saying,
also.
we're getting mixed up in our
I
rhetoric.
don't think
and
we are.
confusing
I
it.
think
Okay.
we're talking about something in circles. I'm getting a little frustrated
So-
because we have to get a better handle on our budget. We can continue this next
Absolutely.
week. So I think we want
That's
to
why I
get to
said
the
till
other
May, we have till
departments.
May to figure this out, but I
So,
want
right,
the
but if
commitment.
Susan, I, and
Meanwhile-
Frank can meet,
So
we
we're
can
gonna
come up
have
with some
about to
numbers.
propose something that's gonna force us to put a schedule on doing some of this stuff, which is that I think we have to have at least 2 public meetings about this. I was gonna propose one towards the end, we can pick dates right now, one towards the end of March, which would give us a hard date to get our
I think that'd be
butts in
great.
gear, to have better numbers than the numbers we have now.
Mhm.
And a second one in mid-April. I know those are only a couple weeks apart, but I think it's important that people have the opportunity to ask questions and we have the opportunity to come back with answers if we don't already have them, because a lot of them we may have, but some of them. we
Well, and
don't.
then they have ideas too.
I
And they have
like
ideas
your
on the front.
suggestion, just don't do it Easter weekend.
Oh, God, I have no idea. I haven't
That's
really
like
looked
a
at that
April
part of the holiday.
14th or
And I'm away almost all of April, but you can do it without me.
And I
was
still
gonna
think we should do
float
one at the
other-
firehouse, an open house, to see the machine.
Maybe in April or more.
No, I really think people should, this is what this thing
And leave
does,
the
bring the
trucks in the
kids.
driveway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
No, I think that would be, we wanna also,
I wanna throw
Help
one
people
question
feel like
out
they're
to the
involved.
floor.
offer.
Or 2 both on weekends, or 1 on a weekend and 1 on an evening? Question mark.
We get some good turnout this evening, huh?
When it's later, when the days are longer, I think an evening might work, but weekends are good too.
I know, I'm like torn, no matter what you do, somebody objects or somebody can't make it, but.
There was some meeting at the library last weekend that there were like 50 people there.
Yeah.
For hours. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a good sized
Groups
group.
for the meadow thing, yeah, that's in a moment.
Well, remember, it's gonna be getting nicer out, so that's a problem. We can also consider videotaping it and putting it, online. You know what I mean,
Susan,
Roger?
unrelated to this, Sheffield has a meeting Friday morning supposedly about their fire, open meeting.
Well,
I don't know, if I was here, I'd know that.
that'll be interesting, this Friday morning,
That's
or
what I
you
was
mean
told.
last Friday?
This coming Friday, Gary told me
About
about.
the fire?
Yeah, they were EMS fire service in Sheffield.
Oh, yeah, they're, it's a library group, I think. This how they're doing it. They're doing a meeting. So, the library trustees or something like that. Did you hear about that? In Sheffield? Yeah, it was in the
I didn't
Berkshire
check.
Eagle
Well, there was a meeting there last Friday, that's
for the
why,
library,
no, it was at Dewey Hall.
yeah, that's the one. I think that's the one.
Well, it was at Dewey Hall, but it was Lee Davis. It
Oh,
wasn't the
yeah.
library group, I mean,
This-
they
this
may
is
have
a
hosted,
different-
but it happened last week, not
This is a different.
okay, a different one. Okay, so if we were talking about, I mean, I don't know, which way, which, an evening for the end of March? Or, when is Easter?
It's like
April
18th,
20th.
20th, yeah,
April
I'm going to
20th.
18.
I
So-
think when it's nicer out, we're gonna have a harder time getting people during the day.
No. I don't
No?
think So if you make it in the morning, you don't take it.
I think,
Well,
yeah,
that's
if it's
it.
the Saturday
Don't
morning,
interrupt
I don't
their
think it's bad. If we're avoiding Easter weekend, but we're going for the middle of April, we could make the April one a midweek evening in the firehouse, like Wednesday evening or something, like what's the best day of the week for people, do you think? If we're
Well,
doing it
remember, the warrant has to be done by when, Justin?
April
15th.
15th, so I think we should,
So the week of the 7th, do like the 9th or the 10th?
well, that's the question I'm asking. Are we making changes? Are we preparing what's in the warrant? Do we wanna do it after the warrant, once we've decided? That's why I'm raising that question.
No, I think that if we.
Then I'd say you have to do it earlier.
Well, I was
One
gonna
week,
have
enough
one
time.
in March. I'm just asking if we're doing one in April. I was trying to schedule backwards because
You can't,
if we're
that's
avoiding
paid,
Easter weekend.
When's the
And we
first
know
night
the
of
warrant
Passover?
has to be done by, we're planning for the 15th, right?
What about Passover? When is
That's,
that?
that's the first night of
April
Passover, the
12th.
fifth, yeah.
What's the
12th?
first night, the 15th?
No, the 11th and 12th, okay, so
11th
that's
and
okay,
12th. So if we did the 9th, which is a Wednesday,
yeah. I can't do that. Oh, I mean,
I think you
well,
could
you,
also
I could
do
do it 7:30, I could do that. 7:30.
I think you could also do them close together in March. For the people who can't come at one time, they can come at the other time.
If we really want
I'm
input, I
trying
think
to
we
give
should
us
do
a
them
little-
earlier.
I would too.
I'd rather
Okay.
you have enough time to.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Okay,
And
warrant.
I do like the idea that there's enough time between the meetings if there needs to
You
be.
can
changes
ask
in
for,
response.
you can think of the meeting as a chance for the town to give input rather than
Yes, that was
us to
my,
have answers for that.
well, I'm kind of thinking of them as,
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
that I need
Yeah.
to know if.
and I can help you with the slides like we do with the
Yeah.
budget thing, so yeah,
So,
we'll come up with.
April 2nd and March 19th feels like it's
That's too
tomorrow,
close, right?
right?
I could actually be there on April 2nd. Wouldn't have left yet.
April 2nd is good, that's 2 weeks before the warrant.
Okay,
So that's a
so
nighttime
Wednesday,
one?
April
It's either
2nd,
April 2nd or April 26th, or March 26th.
but I don't wanna do with them, like, if we're doing a Saturday
Oh,
and
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
I didn't hear you just have to.
I don't know, so then the question is, when's the other one, like,
Well, what time?
if we
April
did the
2nd?
22nd, that's that's 4 weeks from Saturday, but it's only, and it's a week and a half from the 9th. Are those too close together?
No, that's good, it's a week and a half from
That
now.
gives you enough time to find your answers.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. So
So what was the first one? The March one?
22nd.
is it do we wanna do the 22nd or the 29th? The 22nd is 3 weeks, the 29th is 4 weeks
I am out
from
of town
this
that day.
Saturday.
I
The
would do-
29th or the 22nd?
22nd is my grandson's birthday. We're taking him to New York for the day.
I
just
might
for-
agree. So 22nd, let's do the 29th.
A morning meeting, a Saturday
Yeah, morning on a Saturday. So what do you, but that gives us only about 3 weeks.
I say the 29th,
Oh, the second meeting.
and then Jeff could be there, right?
I could
All right,
be there
wait,
on the
wait,
29th.
If we do the 29th, that allows us 4 weeks to get all those ducks in a row, and it's a lot of ducks. I want
Sure
better
is.
ducks. I
Right,
really want
but I
better
don't think
ducks.
it matters if the Saturday and the Wednesday meeting are close together, because we're
Okay.
targeting 2 different groups, we don't
That's
expect the
only
same
4
people
days
to
away.
come.
What
And we
about,
want
No,
to
it's
present the
like
same.
10
It's
days
such a
apart.
good meeting to.
It's like 10 days.
what about
We're
March
gonna have such
15th?
good treats,
Saturday the
we're gonna have
29th.
firehouse truck,
April the
firehouse
22nd.
cookies.
April, okay,
What
so
about March
March
15th?
29th
No, that's too
and
soon.
April 9th.
That night, okay.
Yeah, that's
Right.
good.
Yeah.
I have a commitment Monday, Wednesday.
Say that again, March 29th.
Right.
Saturday,
April
March
And what time
29th,
at night, Mickey, on the
and
night?
Wednesday, April 9th.
Between 11 and 12.
The
I can
only,
make that.
So we moved it to Wednesday, April 9th, and I won't be there for that.
And
but
what
you can be
time
there
would
the
you do that?
29th, so.
And what time would you do that,
Steve, do
Mickey?
you need a ride?
I don't know, what time do we, wait, before we go
Yeah.
on to that, on the Saturday meeting, 10 AM? I think
I think-
9 is hard for people.
Yeah, I think it is, and it could be a little cool.
I would say
So
10.
10, but you
Well,
don't
I was
wanna.
gonna put one in the library, I was gonna put March in the library and April in the firehouse.
Oh, that'd be good, that's good, yeah. that-
Well, the one on Saturday, we should do in the firehouse, because
Yes.
it's a morning and
Oh.
we can invite kids.
I think I'd rather have the warmer spot for the colder day.
So then, but you understand what I'm saying, like,
But isn't it more of like a financial conversation, not like a let's.
but
do
I think
kids
we
on
could,
the-
I think and that we can talk to the guys and I can help them do it. I think we could say 9 o'clock, bring your kids, see the equipment, 10 o'clock meeting. I think we should open the firehouse to the community in a different way.
I just,
You think it's too much?
I think it's too much, and I think
We're
I'd
gonna
rather
have
have,
Sean
if
and
we're gonna
Patricia
have
get tied up
a
pretty
dog
much
and
in that.
pony
Okay.
slideshow, I think
All right.
the library is gonna be a better place to do
So
that.
the 29th at 10, and the 9th at what time?
And I'm assuming I can get the library,
The
right?
29th,
I can ask.
we also go to the community center.
Yeah, I don't know what's scheduled,
No, it's too small.
Yeah,
You're assuming.
but you know what,
Library, we could
Again,
do Zoom.
yeah,
I
you
mean,
could do
you could
Zoom,
also-
that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we
that-
could
that's
back up,
great.
if they can't do Saturday, we could do Sunday.
why
Okay,
is
so April
At 10.
9th, what time are we looking at?
Wait, did that go by anybody?
Yes, we
If
could do
the
Zoom.
library's unavailable Saturday at 10, we could do Sunday at 10, probably the next day.
Okay,
I can check with the boss and see what he
Oh,
says
thank
about
you.
it Saturday, if we wait, we can schedule
Yeah, I
it now
probably
and put it
can't
on.
do the
Right,
Sunday.
exactly, I would reach out tomorrow, but I can't reach out the second, so,
I'm not sure if I can do that Sunday.
okay.
but I
As
can
long
do
as
the
we have
Saturday.
1 or 2 people.
Well, I'm
on the
hoping
finance
for
committee
Saturday, I prefer Saturday, but I wanted to back up.
On Sunday.
And what time on
Saturday,
the
I'll be in
9th?
church.
Not that I can be there, but what time on the
Just
9th? Which is
That is a good question,
Oh,
so,
Jim.
What's the
Seven.
ideal meeting time, 6, 7?
7
I would do 7, because that people
No,
get a
Sat-
number. of
Friday
meetings.
night, 7
Yeah,
when we
you
talk
know,
about
I'd rather have them there on a full stomach.
I don't know.
On March
April.
29th
Yes,
at the library,
Yes.
there's something scheduled from 4 to 9.
yeah.
PM. Radiant Light by Caller.
But we usually
Well,
do it
that's 4
like 10 in the
PM. If
morning.
we're
or
not
something.
done from a department meeting by 4
Well,
PM.
if we're not done, we'll need a
taking
radio
cyanide,
mic.
man, forget it, somebody else is
We won't
down
be
now.
talking to one another.
It's not us, or to each other, I'm worried about.
Yeah.
So do you-
At least you
You'll
don't
be by
want to
yourself,
want to
Roger.
get answers.
So, and just,
I think so,
And then
7
So-
PM
you're
on
allowed to
Wednesday.
details, you're allowed to talk scheduling on email.
right,
It's
and
not
one,
open meeting
but
law
let's talk
violation.
about one other thing for this. We're gonna need a lot of hands on deck for the presentation. So if you wanna take some of the bullet points about thinking about all the stuff you were just saying, future, what else happens. If, Steve, I told him you wrote an article about like the tax rates and stuff, and I know you, but I think, Steve, you wanna take that kind of look about the override and the tax rates, about, you know, what kind of slides you might want, or what you might wanna say. You know, Susan takes the, you know, I mean, I think we all
Overall thing.
focus on
So,
one area, I
Yeah,
don't know
I'm
what else.
hoping Mike Canales, the Stockbridge,
Does that
TA,
make
is
sense?
supposed to send me a package, he did? I didn't see it.
But anyway, I can organize, I can put it all together in one presentation
I
and
didn't
help
see it
punch it
until
up.
my last look.
I can
Yeah,
put it
Roger.
together in one presentation.
Roger, could you send me that package? So I can look at it?
I
the
can put it in one
Stockbridge-
presentation and punch it up, but let's all look at what parts we're working on to bring it together.
Got it.
And
Does that make
I'll
sense?
do that point, the future,
And you'll do the tax rate to the override,
The impact of it, you know,
And
just
you'll-
broad scale.
right?
Yeah, everything.
Meanwhile,
You'll talk
Guidelines,
about the
what it would
budget.
take and what-
And you'll talk about the planning and the, why we're going this way?
Not
Or you're not
just the
talking-
budget though, I think we have to talk about why we're even doing it.
Right, well, I think
we
that
have
should
to
be,
be
I
clear
think that
about
should be
what
you.
the need
I
is.
think that should be you.
That's fine, I'm willing,
And I'll like help you with the bullet.
I think you should also give a little bit of the numbers they're doing, how many calls we have.
Yep.
Stuff
Yeah.
like that. Here's
What's
what
the
Absolutely.
need? So this is what
What we're doing, you
the
know, we are
demand is,
service-
and this is
What's
what the
happening in the
supply
other
is, this is
regions,
what's
right.
happening in other places, there's a
So
lot
you
of
work,
things to
so we
answer.
got done with her to do, you're doing the override and the tax rate, you're doing the long-term future planning.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna wrap it all together, make it seamless, and make your arguments look better than you thought, with graphics that underscore the
Hey,
importance of.
stop selling me.
If we have a schedule.
The point is to grease the town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the point, is
To
to answer
explain
the
everything
question.
to everybody, and also to get a read on where people are and how they feel about it. It's not gonna
I
be
get
everybody,
so
but
many
people
We're
different-
show up.
expecting to change our minds about the budget based on what people might give us input.
We might have some changes.
We might.
I wouldn't rule it out, I wouldn't
I'm not
rule
gonna
it
rule
in,
it
I
out.
think, well, it's
And
just,
for one thing, if we have good numbers on at least 2 scenarios, I might, like 6 people versus 3 people, whatever it is, and there's a clear sentiment in the room of favoring one over the other, that gives us the opportunity to make that choice and change some of the direction or the degree of phasing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you are contacting Mark tomorrow morning, get that reserve, call Shannon Lee right away. Get it into the Monterey
Still a little
News,
time, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good
that's
idea.
a really good point.
like immediately.
Yeah, and I did in my article say to check our news
Exactly.
website, but yes, I will do that.
Robert,
one
do you
other,
have,
go.
do you have any general, do you have something on this? 'Cause was
I do
asked
have
about
one thing
the
that we
general
need to
budget.
talk about, I'm not looking for an answer, but I had a question on the weekend.
Go.
You have a paid fire chief, paid deputy fire chief, and they're officers of the nonprofit fire companies, or conflict of interest.
As far as I'm aware, no, but ultimately, I think what's on the table is if we have a paid.
I'm looking at,
Hang on, let me finish my sentence.
You're getting
As
like
far
me.
as I know, there is no conflict of interest, they have no, they don't get paid as officers of the fire company. There's no payment involved, so that's not an issue. But ultimately, what's happening in the other towns where this is existing, like Otis is taking over the ambulance company.
Well-
Egremont gonna be, nobody envisions it being a problem as it becomes a paid service for that volunteer organization to be in one way or another, however you wanna call it, absorbed by the town. I think it's the logical direction as you're bringing on a full-time department.
okay,
I can't speak for them, but I have the sense that,
I think it'd be worth asking about that.
Yes.
I just took the conflict of interest course, and now
I first of all,
fresh in my mind.
yeah, but I would also
There's
say
no
that we
money
should get the
involved.
state opinion and get Donna's opinion. But at least we should say, we have spoken to the attorney, we have consulted with the state, it's not this. We can see it going
Yeah.
under this town, but it's not right now a
Right.
priority, because, you know,
I will reach out to Donna tomorrow.
yeah, and I can reach out to the state too, and ask them the question.
I'll give you one little piece of information about state ethics. They will not give you any advice about a case that's not your own. So the first thing they're probably gonna ask you is this about you? And if you say it's about somebody else, they won't speak to it, just so you know.
You mean,
I mean,
you call,
you
when
can
you call
still-
that lawyer on call for the day?
The
It has to be about you.
Yeah, but it is about us.
ethics
No, it's
attorney
not.
of the day,
Why not?
I just know,
Because you're not a firefighter, you're not the fire chief.
you can't ask for opinions about other people, so I can't say Steve is part of the church and we're negotiating a contract with the church. Is Steve violating ethics? They say,
you
they
can-
won't give you advice on.
You could say, I'm a select board member,
I
we're thinking
have
of
called the
bringing,
ethics commission probably about 2 or 3 dozen times since I've been on the
but if
select
he's
board.
thinking of bringing them in,
You have to call for yourself, and you're not responsible for other people's ethics violations, you're only responsible for your own.
oh, I see, it's ethics, not.
So we'll talk to Donna, but we should be able to stand in front of the meeting, we've had this
And
conversation.
Pat said that
Yeah.
conversation, and I need to make
Because
sure.
the question I
It's
had,
not
the
just
question that was
implied.
put to me, are they still gonna raise money?
They don't, Eileen, what they don't want happening is,
I get what you're
it's
saying.
small towns, things get
No, I
controversial.
understand, I
They call
understand.
out-
I was missing the point
But,
of planning
It
versus,
changes the.
like you're
the other
talking
point
about
was,
someone's,
it's a paid
what they
staff,
might
it used to
do.
be volunteer, does that?
I've done,
Do
it's
it.
making
They
sense.
don't
in my
want
head.
other people nitpicking and
Well,
saying,
the
oh,
thing
I
is,
called
you
state
look at it,
ethics,
it's
and you're in trouble.
volunteer, nonprofit.
Right,
But they want
however,
money
when
for
you're
paid
saying,
staff in there.
as the
And
select
that's
board,
why-
if I take this in, how do I
So I
discuss with
think
them?
we should
Am I violating
have
in
that
terms,
conversation.
you know what I mean, by
Okay. I
discussing it
made
with
my
them when
point
they're a
on that.
different board?
I was there
Because
with
that
you
is violation.
already, but
As a
the
planning
COA,
select
the
board.
COI thing is something I thought I had gotten her to answer previously, I'll go back. Because I think I did ask Donna this, but let me go back and check, and
I
if I
think
did.
we have a slide and we put it out there, we've talked about it.
Yeah,
Well, this is
no, but I
what-
wanna make sure I did actually ask that
Part of
question.
this presentation is anticipating questions.
Roger, you have a
Yes.
budget up for
Oh
us?
my God,
I
that
have
number,
something
Roger.
up that's not really complete, there are some other boards, some small, things I have to, fill in. I also haven't gotten into some of the debt service miscellaneous expenses that are in there, but, hold on, I can show you something.
Percent
Gotta have
change,
damn
99.
good eyes.
Don't worry about that, I'm still working on things, so that's why it's not necessarily,
Do you have any kind of a percent change?
not really.
Well, if you go right there, what does it say?
It has numbers, but it uses.
The numbers are missing, I mean, for example, you know, this is missing a couple of big numbers.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, for example, fire.
Well, but do you have individual departments? like-
Roger.
Hey, Ron, do you have like DPW that we could look at?
Well, I have, yeah, so like,
So, 'cause they-
this is DPW right here.
Okay, how are they looking?
They're not, there's a percentage change that's happening there, but if we look more at the actual budget that, let me find it here,
Who helped you with that?
I did it myself.
Sometimes it's-
So,
Animal control or genetic equipment.
it's all the officers.
so if we really get into their changes, they're only seeing like the dollars that they've put in there so far, they're seeing like a 3.45% increase.
And that's including 4%.
That's like, yeah, that's
5% increase for
4%,
officer
5%.
salaries.
Yeah, this is the police budget, so that's where that
Okay.
happened.
Okay,
So-
on the police,
Where's the percentage on there? Pull one up and when you show me, just mention.
It was bottom right.
It was bottom right,
Yeah, so
where?
these are,
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I can't read that.
So this is
This
this is actually, this is all the DPW.
Is that 2.04?
2.06.
06,
I
okay.
can live with that.
This is all their stuff that they're.
And that's with the COLA increases?
That does not have COLA increases in this one.
And does it not have transfer station operations?
That's a different.
That's a different budget, right?
That's a different budget.
Yeah.
So that I'm working on because I'm still trying to figure out the hauling. And costs on that, work on that, because the costs of.
Is Raj going up 10%?
Roger,
Trucking.
I don't, I have to look at that.
I'm just wondering, in the vein of what Eileen was talking about earlier, we could say, look, we think we're gonna have 45 times that the container is hauled, and this is the price, and we could granulize it
Right.
to the container. But we could also say, Roger's going up 10%, we're gonna take the budget and go up 10% and not overthink it.
Yeah.
I just wanna make it easier.
No, the way I'm doing it, it's just, I've got to put everything together.
Yeah.
I'm just still trying to connect everything. And I haven't, I've still got certain parts of it that I'm, that.
So maybe
so
you'd be
figure-
ready.
So like, for example, the transfer station operation, yeah, it's gonna go up 10%, you could add 10% to it, and it's gonna go up 10%.
Yeah.
$12,000, $13,000.
So are you ready to go through this now, or should this really be on our next meeting?
Probably on the next meeting. So, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send like links to everybody. So I'll send links to you that'll be like, look at this and just look at this, the draft and where it is, and also be able to look at the underlying spreadsheets.
So the
Okay, tell us
SharePoint is,
what's-
we can do, but we can't edit.
I can do it that way, yeah.
And
Let's
tell,
do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and tell
Yeah,
us
we don't
what's.
want anyone.
Because we're not doing
That was the big thing.
Instead of like an Excel
I don't want
spreadsheet by
to.
email or?
No,
how do you-
so what's gonna happen is there'll be a link and you'll click on that link and it'll take you into here.
And you'll be able to view it but not edit it. Can you also make notes as to what's still missing, or put in yellow background or
Yeah,
some kind of?
I'll make notes.
So we can easily see that you're waiting on these numbers and that we don't just
And
glance at
don't
the
just
bottom
believe that
line.
whatever the number is there
So
is
the
actually an
Here
accurate.
is at our next meeting, we'll actually have that in front of us,
And we'll be able to look at it beforehand, so we can
right,
come
and we'll
in
be able
informed.
to look at a roll-up number about how much we're looking at compared to last year, and then, right? So
Well, I
we'll
think
know.
we, to start with.
So we'll know how
just
big-
take it
how
by
bigger of a
department,
hole
because
is.
we don't know what the fire department is now.
Well, I think we can definitely say we're not sure about the fire department, but
But I mean, if we look at different departments and get them off.
yeah,
The other
there
question
might
is,
be a lot we can get right off.
we could go through police, DPW, and get those pushed aside.
And so the way that
Council
the way that it actually works, that I have set this up, is that there's a working budget that you'll have access to. That working budget is tied to a whole, different spreadsheets that each show up to 4 years of activity on that department, for that
Okay.
department.
Where do we stand on capital? I know police car, and we got the fire truck in a year or
We have
so.
a fire truck, we have a police car that we're looking at.
What about the fire truck? What
Well,
about
the
which
fi-
fire truck?
Well, the fire truck, the
Yeah, but
engine-
that's
the
not,
engine,
we're not
that's-
financing it in 20.
Actually, I don't think the only capital is the police car.
So there's the police car and then the fire uniforms,
So the fire unit.
are in the
Wait, is
capital
that-
plan for
The capital, I have
75,000.
that on here.
They're gonna expire,
75,000 or 7,500?
75,000.
Okay. That
Um,
makes more sense to me.
they're
The
going,
wing truck, the
one
match
at
for
a
the.
time,
Okay.
please.
I think one of
They're going to expire about 6 months into the fiscal year. So if we want to stay 100% up to date on them, then we should really be budgeting to replace the fire turnout gear in this budget, which is in the capital plan for 75,000.
So right here, so this is the capital plan, it's a spreadsheet that's out there, I found. And so, yeah, so right here, in FY 26 is $75,000. It was put in there under fire.
What's the 125 below it?
It says Sylvan Road Water Cistern, I don't know where that is or what that.
That is not a necessity. When we went through
Is that
lists of old properties, one that we discovered is on Sylvan Road, and an idea, a someday dream idea, is to make it a well to get water for the fire truck.
Yeah, for the fire, so they have a place up, I remember that. Fire place to get water.
Yeah,
And highway doesn't have any, like everything's all been taken care of for this year.
And where are we on getting the replacement truck?
Well, it should be here tomorrow.
Oh,
them.
really?
Wow, we should have like a parade.
Yeah, they were taking the equipment out of it today, the stuff that's in it, and then, the guy was delivering it,
wait, fire or DPW?
DPW,
DTV, yeah,
the DPW truck, yeah.
they.
I'm not certain about the fire truck I think was
I know
more
it's
the
in
fire.
Shop and they were.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I think it was
Work
dealing
on it.
with, it has multiple vendors that are supplying parts to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's,
It's like they rebuild it.
Chris said in the meeting at the end of January, that was gonna take a few months to do. That capital was already been approved.
Yeah, it's not a new one.
So I am,
Isn't the, police car gonna be paid out of free cash? Did I hear that?
I think that's
Probably, but it's still
likely,
part of the capital.
Because free cash is only going like 300,000.
I know, but the cruiser is not wildly expensive. I think it's gonna be just under
69.
70,000.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
69 is what.
Yeah, that's what
Great.
they told you, 69.
Mickey,
Question on this police cruiser, how many police cruisers are we gonna end up with now?
We're gonna have
so
three.
so we have 3 right now. The
But I
last
heard-
few years, we've had 3. One is sitting out, the engine is completely shot. We're not gonna pay to replace the engine. This will replace that one that's completely shot.
I thought that the idea of that was just to wait till that died out and left it was just being left with.
No, I fought that fight 2 or 3 years ago. You may remember that, but
Yeah.
we decided to move forward this way 2 or 3 years ago. I can talk to you more after the meeting. But We've been on this 3 cruiser train for a couple of years.
Yes,
So three policemen, 3 cruisers.
yes. With our mileage, it's really making sense, because they're really beating through them.
so that's how.
No, but I'm saying the wear and tear.
The new big $5 million, that truck will be.
That'll be the next year's finance.
It's not more.
When we talked about it in the fall, they said 2 years out.
And there were problems with
That
the
changes a
company.
So it is on order.
There were problems with the colors.
It's not on order. There was a problem with the contract. I can talk to you
The
about it.
voters approved it.
Yeah, it's been
Yes.
It's
approved.
been approved.
And we
It's
have a
already-
price.
The delivery was the problem.
We have a price and everything.
It wasn't ordering.
Just
They're struggling with.
I have a list.
the shortage, there's only 3 companies.
There's
Yes,
only
well,
What do you have a list about?
I
I
think capitalization,
I think
stabilization,
there's
free
2
cash.
companies, like 3
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah. and
Well,
one-
so do
one
we go through
company owns
everything?
like 5 of them.
One,
I don't know.
Eileen has a point here.
Yeah.
What?
I wrote that down at one point. Is that the right list? Did we go through, those are the things we said? We just talked about the 70,000.
1-ton highway pickup truck has been paid for.
So that's done. Okay, so
The
that's,
wing, we don't need any plow trucks this year.
so that, these were all last year. And the wing truck is done. The match for the culvert,
No, we don't need a match for the culvert.
all right. The 60,000 for the town hall floors.
We're not doing it.
They look pretty good to me.
The 70,000 for the 70,000 for the ambulance, we just said was okay. We have,
The request for the ambulance this year is 100.
oh, so that's on here.
Yeah, we were.
It's not like
Okay.
capital.
We're actually, I mean.
Yeah, you're
at
talking
some
about
point we
Southern
look
Oh,
at-
for Southern Berkshire.
Southern Berkshire,
That's
it's
100.
No, I'm talking about what, the one.
This is a list from last year.
Yeah.
Right,
They
I'm
don't
saying,
have much.
yes. So do we have a similar list for this year?
It's the police cruiser and the fire turnout
And
gear,
that's it.
basically. And one of the things that we're trying to do is things that we were paying for like they were capital
Right.
as special items in the budget that are really operating. Like how we take care of like Garfield
Yeah,
weeds, like the ambulance. If they're every year operating expenses, we're gonna put them in the operating budget where they belong.
I agree.
So I think
Right.
ambulance
And
goes
then-
in fire and emergency services.
And we have an update
Yeah, I
on
would
the
agree
ARPA
with
and where
that,
all
yeah.
those are,
ARPA is
And what-
done, everything had to be obligated by the end of December.
and it is.
It's up on the webpage, I can talk you through any questions you
No,
have.
I'm sorry, I didn't check the webpage. I just wanted to make sure we did nail it all.
And this is one weird question, but it's relevant to where we're keeping things, which came up in my head today, which is we are treating insurance as its own group.
Yeah.
Right? It's separate on the warrant as health insurance. When we're actually thinking about the budget, the insurance actually comes in parcels according to who we're paying for, right? The folks, it's health insurance for the DPW, health insurance for the fire department, health insurance for the library, health insurance for the people who work in this building. I don't know that one way makes more sense than the other way, but when I'm thinking about what it's costing to run the fire department, do I really run that health insurance cost and dump it in another bucket? Or do I admit that it's in that bucket? So that's why I'm wondering, because on the warrant, it's in its own group.
I don't think it's time to reinvent the
No,
wheel
I
because
agree.
similarly, when we have turnover and someone that was on a single plan goes on a family plan, vice versa, et cetera, we all pull out of one pool, which
Right.
helps
Yes.
even out those bumps. If we budgeted for police health insurance, it would be not as flexible as one pot.
Right.
We still are transparent with
Yeah.
what those health,
Okay.
That's what I would say.
there's parts in our budget that are without necessarily good reason centralized, like some departments all buy their paper together.
Right.
And it's under one paper
When the
budget.
state reports Schedule A, the health insurance is on separate.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why it happened, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Well, and also we didn't want to encumber the departments with having to
Right.
figure out the COLA, this and that, but it should be attributed back if that's how
And
it's
you don't wanna
shown.
penalize the
That it was
public
really an
for
ease of-
married people and other parts.
Oh, for sure not. Right.
Oh, look at my hair from the back.
That's
Turn
a
off
really good
that
point.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not doing
Good question.
cost accounting. per
But,
se, so,
but when we get the new budget, that's the whole idea, when we get the new budget, right, so we're doing it for the ease of the departments and centralization, because they have no control over it. There are people like the library that because of some of their formula, right, thinking you have to actually know what the COLA is, because it triggers like how many books you have to buy or something, so that's why we give a placeholder, but eventually we'll be able to do it both ways, however we want to see it, which I think is a good plan.
But we'll get together next week. Are we doing Tuesday again next week?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're on to Tuesday now.
Do we wanna flag which departments?
I think,
I'm happy to take the bull by the horns when we have it sitting in front of us. We've done it in the past.
Okay.
I'm not worried about, there's a couple different ways we can do it. Let's figure that out when we have it in front of us, cause some will be self-evident. There's some lines that no one's gonna ever question,
Yeah.
the Memorial Day parade is $2,000, it's always been 2,000. And I think even flagging by line, we'll figure it
I
out.
think I found
When
some.
do we do the Memorial Day? No,
I think I found some, a separate issue, so we'll go through that, we have some departments that want, I forgot what
So
I
are
was
we
gonna say.
doing the same timing next week?
Finance
I think
committee,
so.
finance committee, do
Same
you
time
think
next
we need a separate meeting, or are we good? I
No,
think
I
we're
think
doing
we're
good, okay, I wanted to ask. And then Steve,
So
you
we're
want
meeting
to
at 5.
sit for 2 minutes and go over
So
the article?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the finance committee.
Good, it was fine, I did, I thought it was
I
really.
second the
I
motion
appreciate
for
you
you.
asking me, but I,
I made sure Don was.
yeah, that
Madam
was,
Chair,
That's.
I was just crazy stuff for thinking about it, more important.
Madam
You
Chair,
made a motion.
there's a motion to adjourn the finance committee.
Okay.
You gotta vote.
All in favor?
Yeah.
All right, great, but it's so good you wrote that, I think that's.
Thank you, everybody.
I wanna meet with you guys.
Yeah, so
Or
when
at
do you
least
wanna do it?
you. I hate like
No, I
When?
couldn't,
Tell
yeah,
me
I
when.
could do it this week. So what's today? Today's,
the 25th.
so I am. I could do, I might have some time. You wanna do it on, before Monday, right?
Were we talking about?
What's good for
doing a
you,
working-
Sue? What,
Frank,
tomorrow?
were you talking about doing a working meeting Monday?
I would like to, I don't know.
Okay, so
Let me
if
check.
you and I
Yeah.
meet before Monday and then we can post a meeting for Monday, that's a working meeting about the fire department budget.
So I could do it tomorrow.
You can stay, but you don't have to, if you need to walk out the door, go.
I'm glad you got my down, that's what I
I
did
get
usually.
Okay,
I got my down.
thank you all. Thanks for listening to my rantings.
Thank you
Write
for
'em up.
offering your,
Aren't we nice to you?
Right,
So we're
write 'em up,
talking
that's my
about the
point.
third, right?
Yes.
No,
You're
I'm
gonna let me
joking, yeah,
know.
right.
When did
Send me an email.
Third is Monday.
Yeah, we got weeks
Okay.
for the presentation.
In the morning preferably?
Okay.
Okay, that's my feeling.
But Monday,
I'm open. I got Monday open.
Post it, take minutes.
Monday is the third.
Get Roger to post it.
Keep doing it, I keep doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I know you know, I just.
I might be,
Yeah.
I might be more on, but,
So, I don't know.
I have a
You might
10
be
o'clock
able-
on Monday, so I could do 11.
That's fine for me.
Okay.
My morning's open.
And then Susan, tomorrow, I have,
That's perfect.
tomorrow I
So
have,
Monday at 11, Frank, and
Paint
I,
first
and
and
Eileen, and possibly Steve, if he wants to come,
We adjourn.
are gonna have a working meeting about fire department.
Can you get a schedule, you know, because I'm a visual person, because has Sean or Chris done like a schedule, this is how it works?
A schedule.
Well, like, when these guys, how they're
When
like,
they're working.
now, like, how it would work, because I'm trying to figure out when you have that facility, and you give them the day off, I don't, if you work the first week, you work 48 hours, if the second
Here is Wednesday.
Tell me what you wanna know, so I can answer you, because I'm not sure you're going.
Let me put it in. I'm a visual, so if I saw a calendar, Joe's working these 48 hours.
I have one week
four
out.
off. That's, I'm having a hard time. I'm grasping it better, but I'm
The
not.
thing that kills you is that it's 212 hours in.
Yeah, I guess you can do this, you can't go.
So it's not even like.
Come on, you know that.
It is.
You have to
Like
go
that in
watch.
last year's budget.
So you get 4 weeks, yeah, 4 weeks, except it's 53 times 4, so it's 212 hours.
Yeah, we gotta
In 4
get
weeks, they
something
can only
done.
work
And,
that
you
many
know,
hours or everything.
And
You can change
You know,
the number of days in the cycle, so for example, you could, if you're doing a 6-day cycle, 2 on, 4
It's
off,
just you guys
you can do a calculation
talking.
to get the percentage of it,
Because you-
for the number of hours. that you're doing. 4 days, I
I
actually.
was waiting to get a date with
But the
her.
bottom
Yes,
line
I
is, it
understand.
doesn't matter when you do it.
Good
Never
job.
full day.
Good job, town administrator, TA.
So they're sort of having a
So that's
conversation,
what
it's still
everybody
part of
ends
their
up
meeting.
doing.
Did they use any software
I
to do that?
appreciate it.
I mean,
It doesn't help you to have the software, because if your person is working an entire day,
Thing, you know.
you're not gonna ask them to work a portion of the day. So either give them a day off so they're not gonna have the problem, or they work their day and you pay them overtime for the hours worked.
So
Those are your 2 options. Software is not gonna help you because no one's gonna come in to work a 4-hour
it's a
day.
breakage factor.
Right?
Sausage.
No one is gonna work a 4-hour day. They're either working 24 hours
Alright,
or
text
not.
me on either Thursday morning or I can't do Friday.
Alright,
No, I'm
we're
trying
getting
to
back into
leave, but
select board
yeah.
stuff.
But you
Okay.
won't give me
I will
a date.
text you
We got-
Thursday, give me a time.
What's that? Yeah.
I'm gonna say, I have, maybe,
I can't do it between 9:30 and 11:30.
yes, or maybe 12,
Alright,
back to work, okay. Bye,
All
Mom, bye,
right,
Nick.
so
What meeting?
I would like to wrap up, if I can push us to it, and I know we're 2 hours and 15 minutes into it, but
Did we get a break if we go much
I'm
longer?
just gonna make
We
a
get a
comment
10-minute
to Susan, who's done writing.
well,
When we have that, Saturday meeting,
yes,
be prepared to answer how much it's gonna add to have the insurance included.
oh,
I will
got,
ask
that
the
part was
question.
one of the easiest things to go down.
I mean, make sure
Give me a
you,
hard question.
you know that,
How about retirement, which we can't get a number from the retirement people? Don't ask me that, because I can't get a
Yeah,
number.
Otis was in the same predicament last night. She said they wouldn't get evaluated till next year.
Yeah.
On the
27.
And they won't, like, I'm sorry, but they freaking know. They have to have a breakout, like, how can they not be able to give you an estimate?
If
That's
they're
insanity.
if they're managing money like that, and they're managing your pension, I'd be cautious. I'd call the SEC to see if they pay attention.
It's really frustrating.
it'd be nice if they're.
Insurance, I've already got the
Social Security.
insurance
Yeah.
number,
You know,
it's some of the other stuff that's making me nuts.
so we have 2, if I can push this, because
Go,
I think it's good
go.
for us in the long term, is compensation and conflict of interest. Compensation has a little bit more that we might need to talk about, but nothing crazy.
So I've got compensation up. Okay, so the first one was the employee work schedule shall be established by the direct supervisor or the department head. That one, I was not sure about, because it seems like the actual work schedule is the department.
I don't think you can really go wrong with direct
Direct
supervisor, because if for some reason your direct supervisor sets your schedule, it's still just a chain of command thing, I think.
Okay, I'm changing it to direct supervisor.
You know, almost, yeah. Comment too, that's not really making sense to me right now.
So
Oh.
now we're talking about the overtime pay thing.
But if you go back up to schedule, second sentence, the actual hours of work for an employee includes da, 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 da. Where did it say that overtime hours are not actual hours worked?
This,
Further
it's
down.
really weird, and I agree with you, and they didn't flag it at Collins, and I don't understand why. Because
Where
if
is it?
It's a third paragraph down on the schedule.
there's this,
Oh,
and then-
shall not include.
right? But it is weird, right? I don't disagree with you. The employee must record their actual hours worked by using time and attendance payroll keeping systems platform, any overtime or absence from the workplace during the work week, an employee's time card is submitted for each pay period is the basis of the compensation.
I think what it should just be is not a bullet point, but a sentence that says an employee's actual hours of work shall not include vacation, holiday,
Right, but
We can put something about overtime pay, the basic work week shall be 40 hours per week as defined by your role.
Overtime pay is above the basic work.
yeah, overtime is considered a separate category. Overtime, which must be pre-approved, above the 40-hour work week,
Working that sucks.
right, so, but I better.
For positions eligible for overtime
Well, and it has to be pre-approved.
and eligible.
Okay, so so we just said this, but now I have to actually do it. You want to take out we're taking out the bullets, and we're writing, an employee's actual hours of work shall not include
Basically,
this
that's-
list,
Yeah.
right? So I just have to delete that. Vacation, holiday, sick, injury, bereavement, jury duty, personal, or other authorized leave, period.
I think just that next sentence works without the or, right? Just overtime pay is for hours worked in excess.
A 40 hours work in a work week, pre-approved by your supervisor and for positions eligible for overtime.
Right, overtime pay.
So yeah, overtime pay, comma, all that he said.
Which must be
Justin.
pre-approved by, overtime pay, hours worked in excess of 40 hours,
Yes.
comma, hours worked in excess of 40 hours. I could have just moved it, but I was already typing.
Oh, I'll let you finish that.
Hours must be pre-approved by your direct supervisor.
By the employees or, yeah,
Right,
an employee's
by-
direct supervisor.
Employees, direct supervisor. I mean, clearly it's not gonna apply to someone who doesn't, because the direct supervisor is not gonna give you permission to work overtime if there's no approval.
I just think it's worth noting about overtime pay, not every position is eligible for it, but maybe that's assumed.
So what's the end of that sentence?
But you get the point.
I would just. it's
Must be
almost-
pre-approved by an employee's direct supervisor, and it is, is counted separately, or is considered a separate category of pay?
I don't,
Doesn't it go into the pay thing? It's a
it
separate
does,
pay?
but I don't think that necessarily
Yeah, it's
matters,
okay.
does it? It's just, you know, that overtime pay for these specific, requires this from your department head or direct
Mhm.
supervisor, and it's for hours worked in excess of 40 hours worked in a work week.
Yeah, I think that's good. Forget the thing about
Yeah.
Don't get in the,
eligibility.
Because
it's
it's
like
like,
getting the mud.
or, yeah.
Alright, so it reads,
You know,
overtime pay, hours worked in excess of 40 hours must be pre-approved by an employee's direct supervisor.
Yes.
Alright,
The only thing, I don't know if we need to differentiate from that, is that, the wintertime call-in, right?
No, different policy.
Different policy, okay, good, because that is overtime, but it's
It's
time,
a
it's time and a half.
minimum, and there's a minimum, and do we have a policy for call-in,
I don't think,
minimum call-in time, and,
well, there is, yeah, so it's a 3-hour minimum.
but do we have a
Is there a
written?
I don't know if we have a written
Thought we
policy,
did. It was 3.
it's a 3-hour minimum call,
Because we used to do 2,
yeah, so
what
we
would
changed
even,
to 3,
what would, I don't think I've seen a policy.
but that,
we approved it.
I know,
but I think it was just an approval, kind of like the
we
boots.
approved that concept, but where's it?
We
written?
never approved the boots. The boots, I don't know what happened with
The
the
boots
boots.
came in, the boots happened in the budget discussion, it was a note in the budgets, I found it.
But it wasn't really, never mind, we're in the weeds.
But the big question is, where is it?
Where's what?
Where would that be?
You're
Where
writing,
would that?
you're putting,
No, but what policy? Forty,
a minimum call-in time,
yeah, the minimum calling time.
a minimum call-in time for the highway policy.
I don't
So
think-
it would be a separate standing policy, but I don't know where the wording is, if it existed already. Let me check
Maybe
the.
just
I think you could add it
It's-
under this.
I thought everything got chopped up.
Oh, really?
I think you could add.
But there's all kinds of other,
I have this is part of the reason why I had problems with everything being cut up into different pieces, because there are some that I know that I caught that were either not mentioned or mentioned in two places,
Yeah.
but I'm not certain that we got them all. Compensation, schedule, overtime, pay date, direct deposit.
You could just write minimum call-in
So-
time for the highway department
So there was
is
a proposal back in,
the winter call-in policy.
the winter road watch.
Yeah, we
policy was
approved
part
it.
of And it said this is paid out, the second monetary component holds a proposal for a minimum of a 3-hour call-in time rather than a 2-hour call-in time, which only comes into effect if someone is called into work either before or after a shift. That was a meeting
So-
with the finance committee.
And we had a written policy and it's probably posted with the minutes. So why don't we figure that out? I think we could just tack,
Incorporate it in here,
no, just,
Yep, there's
it's
a
a whole
policy.
winter road
separate,
watch
a winter
policy.
road watch policy, and it's separate.
Yeah.
Maybe what I say here is, see winter road watch policy. If you have it for highway.
I don't even wanna think about how this is all gonna relate to the, like, all the fire stuff you're talking about.
I started looking at that, that was one of my questions. but I didn't
Jeez.
figure we needed-
But we can't change it till we know what we're doing.
Yeah,
I
and you gotta write it out too, because there's so much
We absolutely
changes.
do, but we can't do that until we're clear on
Right,
what
yeah, I
the
agree with
policy
you.
wants to
You
be.
know,
So I'll-
put the cart in front of the horse.
Alphabetically, winter road watch is way towards the end,
And
and I think it's gonna be a whole separate thing.
it
Okay.
is confusing because the minutes talk about 3-hour call-in, but the document that they submitted talks about
And what are they actually doing?
3.
Yeah, 3 makes sense.
And
Horse too much.
there's
Yeah, it
winter call-in time, but there's call-in time year-round.
Correct, but minimal.
Yeah, so overtime during the year is minimal. So that's what there is there's regular overtime that's outside of winter call-in. So winter
Winter
call-in.
calling comes out of a different.
It's
But
its
I
own-
mean,
it's its own
so
budget.
they can be called in, on a Saturday because it's been a storm or because a tree's been knocked down on my road and I can't get through, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Somebody has to come.
Right,
Yeah,
That's just overtime, but the
Yeah.
winter calling is under the separate budget.
it's a separate budget.
snow
Yeah.
removal.
There's
know it's a
call-in
separate-
year round, but it is not, it's just not that common, you're right, like if there's a storm, but it also only comes into effect if you come in to clean up the storm, but you spend less than 3 hours doing it, because if you're 3 or more hours, it's just your hourly rate. So it's not a huge
Okay.
thing,
Yeah, like I think the budgeted,
it's like 10,000
it's not even that, it's like barely 5.
for the whole department.
For the whole department outside of winter, but the winter call-in is
Yeah.
like $25,000.
I have another thing on this policy, just schedule second paragraph. Employee,
Employee
just read that
sponsored
sentence and tell me if it
their
makes sense.
actual hours worked by using time attendance payroll, timekeeping systems, platform, any overtime and any absence from the workplace during.
Yeah,
I
it's
think-
something there.
That's supposed to be right after their actual hours worked, comma, any overtime, comma, and any absences from the workplace during the work week using the time and attendance payroll.
I guess you could, by kind of including any overtime and any absences, would that fix it?
Yeah.
Just put in including before any.
Yeah.
Okay, good call.
The sentence about not being permitted to alter a time card once it's submitted. There's also just, if you notice something that needs to be changed after you submitted your time card, contact the town administrator.
Okay, it's without,
Just the last line of the.
yeah, I know, I'm just debating putting it before or after. Maybe after, no employee is permitted to alter time card, should you notice a problem, contact the town administrator.
Yeah.
A comma maybe? Or a semicolon, maybe semicolon. Should an employee become aware of a problem?
Yeah.
So it reads, no employee is permitted to alter a time card once it is submitted without the permission of the town administrator. Should an employee become aware of an issue, they should contact the town administrator.
And then just under pay date and direct deposits. Yep. I don't know what it was before, but employees who resign will receive their final paycheck.
In the next regular payroll cycle. I know that if someone is terminated,
Yeah,
you
at
have
the
to
time of
actually hand them their
termination,
check.
you're supposed
But I
to
think-
But is that not true of someone who resigns?
No, you
No.
give it to them when we process payroll.
Okay,
And I don't know why I felt like that needed to be added.
but I don't see, I mean, what are you gonna say receive their final paycheck, period?
Maybe we don't need that sentence,
I don't
for
think
some
we do.
reason I thought it needed to be added. So forget that whole sentence.
Okay. Forget
I
it.
deleted to the treasurer,
Ah,
because they're submitting their time card, they don't know
who?
that their department head looks at it, their
Right.
town administrator looks at it, and frankly, it doesn't matter, they just need to submit it by 10 AM on Monday. And it will go through the steps from there.
Okay. Oops.
Good?
All right, are we approving? 22525. Yay.
And last is, another C, what is it, conflict of interest? Probably.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I had any comment on it. I didn't have any comment. If there's no comments, then we'll just approve it.
I didn't have any comments.
Approved. I don't believe there's any town administrator updates. Does anyone have any unanticipated business? Nope.
Vicky, nothing?
Because I spoke enough.
No comments and questions from the
Wait,
public?
I
wait,
did
let me
that-
just make sure
I
there's
did
no
that this morning when I first got here.
No.
I got an email from Lee Davis's office that they filed the legislation for the special act.
Good.
Trying to figure out why the Monterey town flag is not hanging up in the state capitol with all the other town flags. Lee Davis's office is working on it.
Okay,
Cool.
It was
There,
brought-
how did
it
we
was
become
brought-
aware of
It was
this?
brought to our attention by a
Right.
citizen.
okay.
Really?
Somebody was there and
Yeah.
visiting, and
Minutes.
unlike me, would actually notice.
Well, the thing is, you can look on a little computer where you can put your town in and see where it's supposed to be. And so it points you
A
to-
blank in the wall.
to a thing, and there's an empty pole, so it's kind of noticeable.
Do we need to put a flag in the budget?
We have to figure out how to get a flag.
Amazon doesn't.
No, we can't buy from Amazon,
No.
no buying from
I
Amazon,
know.
bad.
Uh-oh, guess I should return that thing I just ordered.
Yes, you should, and you should stop buying from Amazon.
You didn't have any updates?
Blackout Amazon,
Jeez, okay.
bad,
Good night.
See you later.
yeah.
Let's make that
So
happen.
do you wanna do 2/19/25?
Exactly.
I saw, Susan's edits, an agreement
The only thing,
What,
a little Monterey,
down there.
and just it's a super small typo.
where are we?
It's literally just an extra N at the end of Monterey.
Oh.
It's not even a word.
What did I miss? I missed it, alright. Oh, yeah, did I see it? Sorry about that,
No worries.
you got it, you're fixing it. Otherwise, thank you for your service.
Pretty soon we're gonna be training the next person.
Oh, God. The thought of that is very intimidating to me.
What's that?
The thought of having to break in a new minutes writer is horrifying.
As horrible as writing minutes is, it might
Yeah, I was gonna
be
have,
lesser of two evils.
It really
I was gonna
might.
start having her read the minutes and then. start
That's, you know,
coming in.
that's a really good place, just start reading them.
Yep,
I think
and have her
that's,
then sit in for a little bit, see how things go.
alright, is that all good, anyone?
I move to approve the minutes of 2/19/25 as amended.
I second the motion.
Alright, we'll call vote,
Yes.
yes, unanimously approved, as amended.
I kinda love this committee, before you even finish your sentence of making the motion, the other person yell and second.
Hey, well, time to conserve our time.
I got a 95% on this one.
No, that's my writing.
What did the minutes get?
I may have closed them out.
What's the percentage?
I don't know, it just pops up, it's this huge score, I just
Yeah.
look over at Frank's thing, and then it usually tells me I got like a B minus.
Oh
which is frustrating.
No.
Which is frustrating. I'd be happy with B minus back in the day.
Great inflation.
Great inflation.
People are getting A++s now.
Alright, so I'll send you a weird agenda thing for the Monday at
Yep.
11 AM, so you can post it.
I'll get in touch. Randy Page sent me that guy's email. I'll reach out to him.
You want me to, what if you put the X on that thing?
I'll,
That's
I
it?
think I.
No, the other.
There you go.
80%. That's a low. But you know what's worse is I got an 80% and you didn't even have any comments on it, so I guess your B minus is good enough for Frank.
I'm a data man. You give me a number, I'm happy. You give me the English language and I'll butcher it.
And Frank, I'm happy to try and work with you on this stupid Kelly thing. Right now, I gotta tell you that, one of the things that Sean and I were talking about yesterday, and Roger and I talked about today, is actually, if we have 6 people, not having Kelly days. On Kelly days, we just have only one person on. Which we could theoretically do if we have 2 people. You can't do it if you've only got one.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge number when you think about it.
Yeah, it's not as big as you'd think. When we
Yeah.
come up with it, it was like.
$80,000, is that what it was?
Yeah, but you got Kelly hours, you got,
It was less than we thought it would be a huge amount of money, and we ran it and we're like, what? That's not fair. I know.
well, but you got 288 hours per
And there's other,
person times 12, and the average rate per hour is $34, so it's gotta be.
it's not an insignificant number, it's just less than we thought it
Yeah,
would be.
but,
We were hoping it would be a lot, so
Couple
we
of
didn't do
$1,000.
you know, but like I was saying, that whole, I think we have to be careful about the rest of the, what we do because of the police department and the other departments, like the vacation, how do we equal out the vacation?
I know, and I was trying really hard to get it equaled out.
I mean, it's things we
But
can
we can have those
discuss,
conversations, yeah.
and I think we'll figure it out,
And I do wanna know what they're doing in other 24/7 departments, because some
Sure.
of, we're not the first people
Yeah,
that
but-
have to deal with these problems.
But they were talking about that last night at the meeting, they're gonna, find people who, they sounded fairly confident they could find EMTs to be, so they wouldn't get into the longer hours. I didn't see the whole schedule, and when they talked about it, they got up and left because of the fire.
All I can say is, I think that not a lot of people are gonna be happy to admit that they may have a staffing desire that they can't meet, right? But when you look at all of the departments that have people that have been having trouble getting or keeping people, that makes me feel like a little bit less confident that's actually true.
Mhm.
Some people are managing to keep their staffing pretty well, and others, not so much. So I don't wanna create a system where I'm drawing on a limited pool that already I know has holes in the bucket.
Mhm.
That's all.
And, we'll probably turn up with some type of hybrid system.
I think that maybe, I mean, at the end, look, everyone's like, oh, well, if they have a truck, we don't need a truck. I'm like, no, we don't have enough trucks, right? Like, we had 7 show up to the Otis barn fire a couple weeks ago. There were only 10 interior firefighters, which wasn't enough. They were running, like, they can only do 2 tanks, and then they have to take a 30-minute break, and some of the guys are like, I can't go back in. It's too hot, it's too much, right? 7 trucks, but only 10 interior firefighters. If every truck had 4 people, that would be 28 people, but I guarantee you those trucks weren't carrying 4 each.
Mhm.
How many trucks turned out for the chief fire?
Oh, God, it was in
No.
the Berkshire.
But they were
Eagle.
doing containment, because there's no,
Do you know anything about that, Justin, that fire?
I was in Pittsfield bringing my cousin to hockey practice,
Yeah.
so I moved to Pittsfield.
Because the Berkshire Eagle said that they were investigating the cause.
they are.
And then I read the article and they didn't talk about that at all in the article, that was the headline.
Yeah.
They got you,
And then
they worked on you.
Yeah, they worked on you.
I didn't open it up. 'Cause
They
I read my 3 articles.
They investigate, by the way, every fire cause is investigated.
Sean said that,
I mean, I don't know one way or another.
apparently their habit is every night before they leave, they check the entire premise to make sure all, you know, the equipment, all the stuff that could be hot, all the ignitables, everything is where it's supposed to be. Supposedly they did that, and the fire was 45 minutes after they left.
So according to this, Otis covered us. Otis came and covered Monterey
Where?
Because
during that fire.
Oh, while we were there, they came here, right?
they left, the two people that were in the meeting.
Right,
Those
but
ones
they,
off there on the night.
right, but that's part of what's going to start to go on with us, is that we're proactively covering for each other instead of waiting for an event to occur, right? And
But, you know.
On December 22nd in 2000, more than 100 firefighters fought a fire that destroyed that
Yeah,
destroyed the building
25
there
years
already, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Where at,
Same
the
place.
same place,
at what?
this is, there's, 25 years ago,
Can we,
almost to the,
we adjourn?
yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, meeting.
I gotta go home and pack.
adjourned at
Gotta get my summer clothes out.
Oh my god. So, Frank, explain to me what would help, like, what is it you
Just
wanna
on-
know,
just on
how